Chapter 142. Chu Luiyue walked alone in the tunnel. The closer she got to the outside, the clearer she could feel the power of the attack. She could imagine what was going on outside. Rocks continued to fall from the mountain walls, smashing into her side. However, Chu Luiyue did not stop. She walked out firmly. This trip was dangerous, but she had to go. Moreover, she also wanted to know why the demonic beasts in Wanling mountain range were so against her. She felt an itch on her neck. She looked down at the blood ferret on her shoulder. It's dangerous outside. You'd better not follow me. The little thing shook its head. No, it wanted to follow her. Chu Luiyue chuckled and tapped its head. Aren't you very timid? You ran faster than anyone else when we were in danger. Why do you want to follow me now? I'm not kidding. You should know what's going on outside. There's really no need to follow me. The little thing seemed to be hurt by her words. It puffed up its cheeks angrily and glared at her. Then, it turned around and faced her with its butt. I said I'm not going, so I'm not going. It wasn't that kind of cowardly creature. Could it be that in her eyes it was like this? I want to follow her. Chu Luiyue did not know whether to laugh or cry. She felt warm inside. It's not impossible if you want to follow me out. However, if you encounter danger, just run for your life. Do you hear me? The little thing swung its tail and covered its ears. Chu Luiyue took a deep breath and continued walking out. At the same time, on the other side of Wanling Mountain, Elder Sun and the rest were caught off guard by the sudden appearance of the black flying python in the sky. What's going on? Why would the black flying python appear there at this time? Elder Sun was shocked. The other teachers who came with him looked at each other. Elder Sun, you know there's a black flying python here? Elder Sun nodded with a serious expression. The entire Wanling Mountain is its territory. In fact, the so-called magical beast tide was also caused by it. The black-winged python's cultivation required it to devour a large amount of energy, and this included low-level magical beasts. Due to the pressure of a magic beast's level, those low-level magic beasts had no choice but to gather together and let it do as it pleased. 3 years ago, Marshall Uncle and I saw it here by chance. At that time, it was only at the peak of level 6. I didn't expect it to break through to level 7 in just 3 years. Everyone was shocked. Elder Sun frowned. The mountain in the middle of Wanling mountain range is the nest of the black flying python. It never left before. But now, for some unknown reason, he appeared at the border. Qing Yi, how many students are there in this mountain range? A teacher next to him calculated in his heart and immediately said, 2 days ago, many demonic beasts appeared in the forest, and they were extremely aggressive. Many students were injured and had to retreat. Less than a third of them are still inside. Elder Sun stared at the terrifyingly huge body and muttered, no wonder it's so strange this time. It's all because of this guy. Even though there was a distance between them, he could still clearly feel the surging killing intent from the black heaven-devouring python. What did it want to do? He suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and ordered, split up and bring the rest of the students back. Remember, be careful. Don't provoke that black flying python. Yes. Chu Luiyue quickly returned to the cave. From here, she could clearly hear the powerful aura approaching from outside. She took a deep breath and walked out. When her figure appeared at the entrance of the cave, a cold glint flashed across the eyes of the black flying python in midair. Then it stretched out its neck and hissed. All the demonic beasts that were rushing forward heard the order and stopped. However, they had almost occupied half of the mountain. The golden-eyed demonic beast at the front had already jumped to the top of the mountain and was confronting Chu Luiyue. No, it should be said that Chu Luiyue was completely surrounded. Chu Luiyue followed the voice and looked at the sky. When she saw the huge body clearly, she was shocked. A level 7 black flying python? No wonder these demonic beasts were so obedient. It turned out that there was such an existence. A human and a beast looked at each other. Chu Luiyue could clearly see that the pair of vertical pupils were filled with biting cold murderous intent. It was indeed coming for her. It wanted to take her life. Chu Luiyue's heart sank. The sun was shining brightly at this moment, but her body was cold. A level 7 demonic beast. If it was her previous life, she would naturally not care. But now, how could she be a match for it? Not to mention that there were so many demonic beasts waiting for her. Chu Luyue did not doubt that as long as the black flying python gave the order, these demonic beasts would immediately rush forward and tear her into pieces. In this atmosphere where the air seemed to be frozen, the black flying python moved and headed towards Chu Luyue. When it approached, the golden-eyed demonic beasts all bowed down. The demonic beasts on the mountain also became more and more respectful. The black flying python looked down at Chu Luyue from above. Just a glance. A formless pressure descended upon them. That was the terrifying power that only high-leveled demonic beasts had. Chu Luyue only felt as if something had ruthlessly crushed her body, and her entire body was in intense pain. Her face instantly turned pale, and sweat broke out on her forehead. The little thing that was originally nestled on her shoulder was also affected and gave out a painful moan. It was a demonic beast and was suppressed by the black flying python's bloodline pressure, so naturally it would not be any better. Chu Luyue took a look at it and saw that it was trembling all over. Obviously it was extremely afraid and in extreme pain. However, its two claws were tightly grabbing onto her clothes and refused to let go. She forced herself to hold on as she turned back to look at the black flying python and asked word by word, "It's not impossible for you to take my life. But at the very least, you have to first tell me the reason and let me die with a clear understanding, right?" The black flying python looked at her indifferently and did not open its mouth, but increased its strength. Crack! The ground under Chu Luyue's feet instantly cracked open. Intense pain engulfed her entire body, almost causing Chu Luyue's vision to turn black. She clenched her teeth and stood still as a light suddenly flashed through her mind. How easy would it be to kill her? But this black flying python did not directly attack. Compared to wanting her life, it seemed it wanted her to submit more. Digression, mobile users please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 143. She did not know this black flying python, and today was her first time seeing it. Why was it acting like this? Chu Luyue could not figure it out. However, this black flying python did not seem to want to explain. It only stared at her and kept increasing the pressure on Chu Luyue. Chu Luyue groaned, and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. However, she still stood straight. She reached out and slowly wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. She looked at the black flying python again with a heavy gaze. After a moment of silence, she suddenly smiled. "If I kneel just because you want me to, wouldn't I be too embarrassed?" Hearing her words, a trace of anger flashed across the black flying python's eyes. Boom! It swept its tail, and a strong wind attacked. Chu Luyue's body flew backward and landed heavily on the mountain rock. Bang! A dull sound was heard, and blood immediately flowed out from her back. Chu Luyue coughed and spat out the blood clots. Her originally pale lips were dyed red with blood, and she looked especially miserable. Her shoulder blade was probably broken. She used her arms to support herself and stood up with difficulty. However, before she could stand firm, another terrifying force attacked her again. Bang! Chu Luyue was thrown out again. This time, it was even heavier than before. Lil Thing clutched her clothes tightly and was brought down together with her. It looked at Chu Luyue nervously, and its eyes were filled with tears. Chu Luyue took a while to recover. She endured the intense pain, held onto the rock beside her, and stood up again. However, at this time, her breathing was weak, and her body was covered in blood. She looked very miserable. It was not that she did not want to fight back, but the other party did not give her a chance. A 7th grade fiend's abilities were unfathomable. At her current level, she did not have the right to fight with it. But why? The little thing used its claws to quickly wipe away its tears and turned to look at the culprit angrily. Its teeth creaked. In the end, it actually jumped up and went straight for the other party. It wanted to kill this fellow. Come back! Chu Luyue was shocked and wanted to stop him, but it was too late. The black heaven-devouring python's gaze shifted slightly. It looked at the blood ferret that was charging towards it, as if it was looking at a dead object. He didn't know what death was. As the powerful pressure descended, the little thing's body suddenly stiffened, and then it fell heavily to the ground. It was lying on the ground motionless. It was unknown whether it was dead or alive. Chu Liyue's pupils suddenly shrank. His cold gaze fell on her. She looked up. The black heaven-swallowing python looked down at her, as if it was looking at an ant struggling in vain. After Elder Sun gave the order, the teachers who came with him immediately took action. Soon, they found the remaining students in the forest and sent them out of the forest. Things were progressing very smoothly. Before they set off, Old Sun had repeatedly warned them not to enter the heart of the mountain range. Therefore, most of the students stayed in the outer area, which made it easier for them to evacuate. When the teachers came back and said that most of the students had been sent out, Old Sun was a little surprised. So fast. Yes, the students didn't go deep. Although they were scattered, it was easy to find them. Moreover, I don't know if it was because of the black heaven-swallowing python, but all the magical beasts in the forest seemed to have been summoned, so we didn't encounter any obstacles. The teachers were also very glad. Old Sun nodded, and his heart finally calmed down. How many students are still in the forest? Other than the 3 who died, all the students in our batch have left, an elder said in a low voice. We 4 died, and 1 is missing. The rest have also left, another elder said with a sorrowful expression. Sun Zhongyan was silent for a moment. This time, it was likely to be the most tragic battle the academy had ever seen. If only he had known this would happen. Bai Chen, what about the new students? He suppressed his emotions and continued to ask. Bai Chen's expression was a little ugly. 2 people from Gu Mingzhu's team died. We found their corpses in the forest, but the remaining 3 are nowhere to be found. Also, there's no news about the 4 people in Chu Liyue's team either. Sun Zhongyan was shocked. How can there be no news? The periphery is only so big. Moreover, they have a signal tube with them, so they should be able to find. He suddenly thought of something, and his voice stopped abruptly. Bai Chen smiled bitterly. We've searched the other places, but there's nothing. There's only one place we haven't gone. Everyone knew where he was talking about. All their actions just now were to avoid the mountain occupied by the black heaven-swallowing python. They are very likely to be there. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone fell silent. The black heaven-swallowing python was very dangerous. If they were really there, they would be doomed. Sun Zhongyan frowned. After a moment he said decisively, You all leave first, I'll go there myself. Old Sun, please reconsider. That black heaven-swallowing python is extremely ferocious. And looking at the current situation, who knows what it is going to do? If you go now, won't you? I can't care so much. If there are no other places, then they can only be there. It's because the black heaven-swallowing python is too powerful that I have to go. Those students would not be able to last long under the encirclement of so many fiends. Old Sun, what if they are not there? Let's take a look first. There's no time. Sun Zhongyan shook his head. Bai Chen immediately said, I'll go with you. Si Ting stepped forward. His handsome face was calm, but there was a flash of emotion in his eyes. Master, I'm willing to go with you. Digression, Rong Xiao. As the male lead, am I not worthy of a name? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 144. No, that place is extremely dangerous. How can you go there? Old Master Sun rejected him without hesitation. Si Ting was talented and powerful, but that did not mean that he was powerful enough. If anything happened to him, what would happen to him as a teacher? Si Yang could not help but take a step forward and whisper, Big brother, are you crazy? That's a 7th grade black flying python. Do you want to die? He looked around hesitantly and spoke even more softly. It's not worth it for you to take such a risk for someone else. Even if you go, you might just be a burden to old Master Sun. Si Ting was very insistent. Teacher, it's precisely because it's dangerous that I should go with you. You're my teacher. There's no reason for you to sit back and do nothing. What's more, you know how strong I am. Maybe I can help you when the time comes. Si Ting was a man of few words. Although his grades were top-notch, he was always very humble. Today this was the first time he had said something like this. The other elders and teachers could not help but look at him. Si Yang glanced at him, and knew that he could not stop him. He suddenly felt a headache coming on. Big Brother had always been decisive. Once he decided on something, he would never change his mind. If he said that he wanted to go, then he would definitely go. Others might not know why, but he knew. Wasn't it because that person was there? Sigh. Si Yong sighed heavily and walked to the side. Out of sight, out of mind. Old Master Sun looked at Si Ting in surprise. You really want to go? Si Ting nodded. Old Master Sun was silent for a moment. Seeing his serious expression, he finally agreed. Since that's the case, follow me. The exit should be outside. Sinhu knocked on the wall in front of him and wiped the sweat off his forehead. He looked delighted. Mu Hongyu took 2 steps forward and knocked on the wall like Sinhu. Then, she leaned in closer to listen. The sound seems a little different from before. Mu Hongyu said uncertainly, Sinhu, are you sure that the exit is outside? Of course. When I was at home, I loved to follow my father up the mountain. Although I don't know much about these things, I can tell something. Sinhu patted his chest. If you open this layer of the mountain wall, you'll find that it's not the exit. You can do whatever you want with it. Seeing how confident he was, Mu Hongyu believed him. Then, she looked at Gu Mingfeng. Why don't you do it? Gu Mingfeng nodded, indicating for the two to step back. He stood in front of the mountain wall, with the profound formation black crystal in his hand. With a thought, he poured the force in his body into it. A faint glow suddenly lit up. That was the sign that the Xian formation was about to be activated. The surroundings were dark and silent. This radiance had become the most dazzling existence. The 3 of them stared at the profound formation black crystal. The golden mane bear cub moved uneasily. Mu Hongyu quickly touched its ears and hugged it even tighter. If anything went wrong later, she would be able to protect it. Gu Mingfeng's power continued to pour into the Xian formation black crystal, and the light on it became more and more brilliant. Very quickly, the outline of a Xian formation appeared. A faint wave of pressure also gradually spread out. Sinhu suddenly whispered, I wonder how Lu Yu is doing. Mu Hongyu's heart skipped a beat. Although they could vaguely sense what was going on outside, they couldn't guess what was going on. Right now, no one knew what was going on outside. She suppressed the worry in her heart and took a deep breath. Lu Yu is very strong and smart. She'll be fine. Since she said she'll see you outside, she won't go back on her words. Let's just go out and meet up with her as soon as possible. Sinhu nodded his head vigorously. Yes. Buzz. A faint buzzing sound was suddenly heard. The 2 of them looked over and saw that the black crystal in Gu Mingfeng's hand had already formed a complete Xian formation. The light was resplendent, and the pressure was overwhelming. It's done. Sinhu excitedly waved his fist. However, very quickly, the light of the profound formation suddenly weakened. Even the power that they had sensed earlier seemed to have become unstable. What's going on? Sinhu's smile suddenly froze. Mu Hongyu suddenly realized something. Could it be that Gu Mingfeng's power isn't enough to activate the black crystal? Because they weren't Xian masters, they were at a disadvantage in this aspect. Warriors usually expended more energy than Xian masters to successfully activate the black crystal. But the 2 of us can't help him now. I've already used up all of my force, Sinhu said with a bitter smile. As he spoke, the light dimmed even more. Mu Hongyu weakly closed her eyes. If only I had already broken through to become a stage 4 warrior. If that was the case, there wouldn't be a problem. Lu Yu left his trump card to them and went out alone to face the danger. But they still couldn't succeed. The atmosphere became stiff and cold. Buzz buzz. The faint buzzing sound was heard again. Mu Hongyu and Sinhu were both stunned. They realized that Gu Mingfeng's aura had suddenly increased. The black crystal in front of him shone even brighter. Mu Hongyu widened her eyes. Sinhu couldn't help but curse. F*CK. Gu Mingfeng. King broke through to become a stage 4 warrior long ago. Boom. A terrifying power suddenly erupted from the black Xian formation crystal. Chu Luyue gritted her teeth and stood up again, walking forward. She walked very slowly as blood continued to flow from her body. Every step she took would leave a shocking bloody footprint on the ground behind her. The black flying python looked down at her indifferently, and the murderous intent in its eyes grew stronger. Chu Luyue's unwillingness to admit defeat had completely enraged it. But the more it was like this, the more it was unwilling to kill her. Chu Luihua finally stopped. Then, she bent down and tried to bring the little thing that was lying on the ground motionless. Up close, its body seemed to be trembling slightly from breathing. It was obviously still alive. Chu Luihua immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Although it wasn't her demon beast, she didn't want it to die because of her. Especially, at the last critical moment, it chose to stand with her. Just as Chu Luihua's hand was about to touch it, a powerful wave suddenly swept over. Chu Luihua was sent flying again. This time, the black flying python finally moved. It flapped its wings and quickly flew towards Chu Luihua. Then, it opened its bloody mouth, as if it could swallow the heavens and the earth. Chu Luihua almost fainted from this blow, and she only relied on her last bit of willpower to stay awake. But when she spat out a mouthful of blood and forced her eyes open, she saw cold and sharp teeth. The black flying python was already in front of her, and it planned to swallow her. Chu Luihua instinctively wanted to dodge, but she realized that half of her body was numb, and she couldn't move at all. A trace of arrogance and mockery flashed across those vertical pupils. The weak could only be slaughtered. Chu Luihua clenched her teeth. She couldn't die here. Buzz! The water droplet in her dantian suddenly started spinning. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 145. Almost at the same time that the water droplet started to move, the black flying python, that was already near Chu Luihua, suddenly felt a sense of fatal danger. It looked at Chu Luihua in shock. The contempt and ridicule in its eyes had completely disappeared, and was replaced by an unconcealable deep fear. The next moment, it retreated in a panic, as if Chu Luihua was an incredible and terrifying existence. All the surrounding magical beasts were stunned when they saw this situation. What was going on? Didn't it want to kill that lowly human? Why? Chu Luihua suddenly regained her senses and realized that the water droplet in her dantian had moved. The vast power kept surging, and in the next moment, a small water droplet separated from it. Chu Luihua suddenly felt her palm itch. She looked down and widened her eyes in shock. In the middle of her bloodstained palm, a small water droplet had unknowingly appeared. That water droplet was only the size of a soybean. It was completely transparent and smooth. It looked no different from an ordinary water droplet. However, one could only feel the terrifying power contained in it when they got close. Chu Luihua stared blankly. This scene was very similar to the time when she had repaired her Yuan meridian. The only difference was that the last water droplet had been used to repair her Yuan meridian. This time it was used to attack. Before she could react, that water droplet had already flown out. It went straight for the black flying python. The black flying python continued to retreat quickly, but the water droplet's speed was faster than it. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of it. The black flying python flapped its wings, and a red flame surged out. It formed a barrier in front of it. But in the next moment, a look of shock flashed across its eyes, because that water droplet had directly passed through that layer of flame, and did not even slow down. That water droplet's speed was too fast. If one looked closely, they could even see a small hole in the middle of the flame. Before the flame could rush over, the water droplet had already passed through and left. The black flying python was even more horrified. It had already sensed that something was wrong. The scene in front of it now proved its guess. Chu Luihua had an extremely powerful and mysterious power in her body. Even it might not be a match for this power. As it thought of this, it quickly retreated in an attempt to avoid this attack. That huge black and red figure moved crazily in the sky. Its route was messy and looked very strange. However, that water droplet seemed to have eyes. It followed closely and kept approaching. What's going on? Elder Sun and Si Ting rushed over silently, but they realized that something was wrong. They looked up and saw the black flying python swimming crazily in the sky. It looked as if he was hiding from something. Si Ting quickly looked up and frowned. Then he shifted his gaze to the middle of the mountain. Actually, there was still some distance from the mountain, but they could already roughly see the situation there. Vaguely, a familiar figure could be seen halfway up the mountain. If it wasn't Chu Luihua, who else could it be? But at this moment, she was leaning against the mountain rock. Something seemed wrong. Si Ting's heart was in his mouth. He wanted to continue forward, but was stopped by Elder Sunday Si Ting. If we continue forward, we will reach the Fiend Beast Formation, which is the area controlled by the black flying python. If we go in, it won't be so easy to come out. Wait here. I will go and check it out. Si Ting's thin lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but when he saw Elder Sun's determined expression, he swallowed the words in his throat. Yes. After Sun Zhongyan finished speaking, he moved forward. Bang! A muffled sound was suddenly heard. Elder Sun and Si Ting were both shocked. They looked in the direction of the sound and saw that there was a hole in the ground not far away in the forest. Soon after, a hand suddenly stretched out from below. The two of them were alarmed. Elder Sun shouted sternly, "Who is it?" The person below seemed to be shocked as well. He quickly retracted his hand. But very quickly, a figure jumped out of the hole. It was a young man. He was tall and burly, and his skin was dark. There were wounds all over his body, and blood stains covered his entire body. He looked extremely pathetic. However, he was wearing Tianlu Academy's uniform. Elder Sun heaved a sigh of relief. The moment the young man came out, he immediately looked at Elder Sun and Si Ting. When he saw their faces clearly, he could not help but be stunned. Elder Sun. The worry and doubt in his heart disappeared. He immediately turned around and shouted into the hole. Hong Yu, Mingfeng, come out quickly. The person outside is Elder Sun. Elder Sun and Si Ting finally understood when they heard these two names. This was Chu Liuyue's team. Mu Hongyu and Gu Mingfeng quickly walked out from below. They were also in a sorry state and looked very pathetic. Elder Sun's gaze quickly swept across the three of them. He could not help but frown. What happened to you? How did you all get so severely injured? Just as he finished speaking, he saw that Mu Hongyu was carrying a golden mane bear cub in her arms. This is, Elder Sun. We were harmed by Gu Mingzhu and were chased by the golden mane bear. It was not easy for us to kill it and survive. Mu Hongyu's simple sentence summarized everything that had happened in the past day and night. When Old Master Sun and Si Ting heard this, they were both shocked. Golden mane bear? That was a 4th grade fiend. The few of them could actually kill it. Mu Hongyu nodded. This little fellow is the cub of the golden mane bear. I carried it to be my fiend. Old Master Sun wanted to ask more, but Si Ting suddenly spoke in an indifferent tone. Only the three of you? Sinhu immediately said. Yes. The three of us separated from Lu Yu. She said she would meet us outside the mountain. Where is she? As Sinhu spoke, he realized that there was no sign of Chu Luyue around. Si Ting clenched his fists in his sleeves. She is not here. On the other side, Gu Mifeng had already realized that something was wrong. He looked around quietly, and finally saw a familiar figure in the middle of the mountain. She is there. At this moment, she was obviously surrounded by countless fiends. But this was not the scariest thing. Gu Mingfeng stared at the huge figure in the sky. A black flying python. No wonder Chu Luyue hasn't appeared until now. She's clearly in a dead end. Elder Sun did not ask about the situation. He quickly said to Si Ting, wait here. If there is anything strange, take action immediately. Protect the three of them first. I have already informed the other teachers to send them out. Si Ting nodded. Don't worry, teacher. Elder Sun nodded and turned to leave. However, just as he took a step, the black flying python in the sky suddenly screamed crazily. It seemed to be in extreme pain. After moving crazily in the air, it suddenly charged towards the middle of the mountain. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 146. The water droplet quickly pierced through the black flying python's abdomen. It was only a small droplet, but it was extremely powerful. It left a fist-sized bloody hole on the black flying python's body. The hard scales were easily shattered, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. The black flying python had never suffered such a loss before. It hissed in pain and hated Chu Luyue even more. The magical beasts that were watching at the foot of the mountain were shocked when they saw this scene. To them, the black flying python was the most powerful existence. It was the king that they had to submit to, but now, it was injured by a human. The magical beasts started to get restless. Some of the magical beasts at the outermost periphery started to retreat hesitantly. They were all quite intelligent. When they saw this scene, they naturally realized that Chu Luiyue was not so easy to deal with. For their own sake, it was better to stay away for the time being. Of course, most of the magical beasts continued to guard here, watching the black flying python in midair. Sensing those gazes, the black flying python was even more furious. It had been the king of Wanling Mountain for many years, but now, because of Chu Luiyue, its position was on the verge of collapse. If it lost to Chu Luiyue in front of everyone today, it would no longer have any prestige to speak of. Thinking of this, the black flying python's eyes flashed with a trace of madness. Then it charged towards Chu Luiyue again. Boom! It swung its long tail. Chu Luiyue narrowly dodged it. The mountain rocks behind her were instantly shattered, and gravel flew everywhere. Although she had barely dodged this attack, the wounds on her body were getting more and more painful. Chu Luiyue turned around and looked at her left shoulder. The other injuries were not important. The key was that the bones in her shoulder and back were broken when she hit the mountain rocks. She was afraid that she would not be able to hold on for much longer. She had to find a way to escape as soon as possible. As she thought of this, she dodged to the side. The black flying python seemed to have gone crazy as it followed closely behind. Everywhere Chu Luiyue passed by, there was a mess behind her. Bang! A dull sound was suddenly heard. The commotion behind her stopped for a moment. Chu Luiyue turned around and saw that the wound on the black flying python's abdomen had widened again. It was as if it had experienced another attack. It was in so much pain that it curled up into a ball. Chu Luiyue frowned slightly. This was actually the power of the water droplet. The black heaven-devouring python struggled in pain, and the chaotic energy caused the surrounding rocks to shatter. Now was the chance to leave. Chu Luiyue turned around. She had just taken 2 steps when she suddenly felt a hand reaching over from the side. She immediately turned her head and looked back. His gaze was as sharp as a dagger, causing the other party to stop in fear. However, Chu Luiyue had already seen the other party's face clearly. Gu Mingzhu. At this time, Gu Mingzhu was covered in blood. Her face seemed to have been scratched a few times. Her hair was disheveled, and she looked panicked. She looked very miserable. She stared at Chu Luiyue closely and anxiously said, Chu Luiyue, help me. Take me with you. Chu Luiyue didn't say anything. She glanced at her, and guessed what she had experienced. She turned around and left expressionlessly. Gu Mingzhu didn't expect Chu Luiyue to be so heartless. She panicked even more. Chu Luiyue, why didn't you abandon me? We are from the same sect. If you treat me like this in the future. Chu Luiyue didn't stop and turned a deaf ear to her. It was already difficult for her to protect herself. If Gu Mingzhu was added, she would be dead for sure. Why did she have to bring such a burden with her? Gu Mingzhu turned around and looked at the black flying python that was struggling in pain. She bit her lip. Even if she didn't want to admit it, she knew that she only had a chance of survival if she followed Chu Luiyue. She searched for a long time just now, but she couldn't find the Xian Formation black crystal that was her trump card. She could only bite the bullet and go down the mountain, thinking that she might be able to avoid those demonic beasts and leave safely. But she didn't expect to be discovered by them not long after she left. She almost died in their hands. She had no choice but to come back again. As expected, those demonic beasts didn't come up again. They were probably intimidated by the black flying python's pressure. Although they didn't come up, they didn't leave either. They blocked all the way down the mountain. I don't know what method Chu Luiyue used, but she actually temporarily suppressed the black flying python's attack. I must leave with her. Thinking of this, she quickly followed Chu Luiyue. However, Chu Luiyue suddenly turned around and looked at her coldly. Although I'm injured now, it's still easy to kill you. If you want to live a little longer, you better not provoke me. Gu Mingzhu was shocked by the undisguised murderous intent in her tone. After a while she reacted. Chu Luiyue was actually threatening her. At this time, Chu Luiyue didn't care about their relationship as fellow disciples, and actually said such words. Chu Luiyue, are you forcing me to my death? Gu Mingzhu screamed in disbelief. Chu Luiyue sneered. When you lured the golden mane bear over, you should have thought of this day. After saying that, she didn't stay any longer and turned to leave. Gu Mingzhu was furious. Her hatred towards Chu Luiyue had reached its peak. What a good Chu Luiyue! She obviously had the means to help, but she was still so heartless and wanted to kill her. Since this was the case, don't blame her for being heartless. Chu Luiyue had just taken 2 steps when she suddenly felt a cold wind coming from behind her. She quickly dodged and a stone flew past her ear. The stone was just broken and had sharp edges. More importantly, the stone was aimed at the wound on her back. If she hadn't dodged quickly, the stone might have hit her broken shoulder. Chu Luiyue frowned and turned around. Gu Mingzhu, you. Before she could finish speaking, Gu Mingzhu suddenly pounced on her. Chu Luiyue raised her leg and kicked her hard in the chest. Gu Mingzhu fell heavily and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, she gritted her teeth and crawled over, hugging Chu Luiyue's leg tightly. She turned around and screamed at the black flying python. I'll help you hold her back. Can't you spare my life? You just want her life anyway, right? Can you not kill me? A cold glint appeared in Chu Luiyue's eyes. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 147. The situation there doesn't seem to be right. Elder Sun noticed that not long after the black-winged heaven-devouring python charged towards the mountain peak, it suddenly stopped. From afar it looked very strange. I'll go there now. You guys must be careful here. After Elder Sun reminded them, he quickly left and headed straight for the mountain. Mu Hongyu watched in a daze, her eyes red. If it wasn't for us, Luyu wouldn't have. She choked and couldn't continue speaking. Big drops of tears kept falling. She had always been competitive and never cried in front of others. She always felt that she was weak, but now she couldn't care less. The guilt and sadness in her heart were like seawater that surrounded her, making it hard for her to breathe. Sinhu's face was also very pale. In the end, he walked to the side and punched the tree. Gu Mifeng was the calmest one. She will be fine. Hearing this, everyone turned to look at him. Mu Hongyu couldn't help but ask, really? Mingfeng, how can you be so sure? Gu Mifeng looked calm and didn't say anything. How could such a decisive and intelligent woman allow him to fall into such a passive state? Her abilities were definitely not what they had seen before. She was too mysterious, as if she knew everything. Didn't it mean that she could escape unscathed after offending the crown prince and the Chu family? Deep in his heart, he had an inexplicable confidence in her, even though he didn't know where this confidence came from. But they just had to wait. Siting glanced at him, a dark glint flashing across his long and sharp eyes. Then he retracted his gaze and looked at the mountain. His hands slowly clenched in his sleeves. He also knew that Chu Luiyue was hiding her abilities. But that was a 7th-grade black flying python. What did she have to do to return safely? Elder Sun approached silently and soon reached the foot of the mountain. As he was worried that he would attract attention, he didn't dare to walk in the air. He could only hide in the forest. Although he wasn't discovered, the foot of the mountain and half of the mountain were occupied by fiends. If he continued forward, he would definitely be discovered. Elder Sun looked at the group of demonic beasts in front of him, and he was secretly anxious. The entire mountain had already been surrounded. If he wanted to break through from the outside, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Not to mention the black-winged heaven-devouring python. Just the demonic beasts outside attacking together would be difficult for him to handle. However, Chu Luiyue and the others were still up there. He found a secluded spot with a better view and looked up the mountain again. From here, the situation above could be seen even more clearly. However, with just a glance, Elder Sun's heart skipped a beat. Halfway up the mountain, it was chaos. Chu Luiyue and the black heaven-swallowing python were confronting each other from afar. The black-winged heaven-swallowing python curled up into a ball and continuously flung out its crazy power. It looked extremely terrifying. On the other side, Chu Luiyue seemed to want to leave, but he was stopped by another person who hugged his leg tightly. Elder Sun took a closer look and realized that the person was Gu Mingzhu. What was she doing? Since she was also here, why didn't she leave with Chu Luiyue? Instead, she was holding her back. It looked like not only did she not help her fellow disciple, Chu Luiyue, but she was also helping the black heaven-swallowing python. Elder Sun was furious, and wanted to rush over immediately. This Gu Mingzhu was really crazy. Chu Luiyue wanted to shake off Gu Mingzhu, but Gu Mingzhu seemed determined to hold her back in exchange for a chance to survive. Although the running and torture these few days had consumed most of her energy, it did not cause her too much injuries. Compared to Chu Luiyue, she was even better. Therefore, under her persistence, Chu Luiyue was actually unable to shake her off several times. On the other side, the wound on the black heaven-swallowing python's body kept expanding. However, as the water droplet's power was gradually depleted, it could finally breathe. It raised its head, and its vertical eyes were filled with sinister resentment. Even Gu Mingzhu was shocked when she saw it. She was even more afraid and shouted even more urgently. I'll help you hold off Chu Luiyue. You let me go, okay? I beg you. The black heaven-swallowing python endured the pain and hissed. Chu Luiyue felt a buzzing sound in her ears. It was as if a small mountain had suddenly pressed down on her shoulders. The strong pressure made it difficult for her to move. Her heart sank. This black heaven-swallowing python seemed to have recovered. Next, it would probably take revenge crazily. At this moment, she had used up all her energy and had no strength to fight back. She lowered her gaze and looked at the black heaven-swallowing python's abdomen. There was a huge wound there. It was dripping with blood and looked very terrifying. It was left by that water droplet. She secretly gritted her teeth. If there was another water droplet, she would definitely win. Just as this thought flashed through her mind, the black heaven-swallowing python suddenly moved. This time, it did not go forward directly. Instead, it rose into the air. It flapped its wings and a strong wind blew. It suddenly opened its mouth. A sharp whistle pierced through the clouds and fog. Chu Luiyue's heart trembled, and a strong sense of uneasiness welled up. The next moment, the originally clear sky suddenly darkened. A circular black hole appeared on top of its head. The surrounding drifting clouds were rapidly dragged into it. As those things kept pouring in, the black hole also kept expanding. Soon, it had expanded to the size of the entire mountain. Not long after, the gravel on the mountain swayed and started to fly up one after another. Finally, they were all swallowed by the vortex. Chu Luiyue's heart harshly sank. This was the black heaven-swallowing python's ultimate killer move. Heaven swallowing. Using this move consumed a lot of its energy, but at this moment it was clearly planning to go all out. Chu Luiyue kicked Gu Mingzhu away, and then stabbed the dagger into the mountain wall beside her. A strong suction force swept over. Gu Mingzhu's body flew up uncontrollably. At this moment, she finally realized that something was wrong. Once she was swallowed by that strange black hole, she would definitely die. She hurriedly looked around and wanted to grab something, but it was already too late. No, I can't die. I've already helped you hold back Chu Luiyue just now. Why do you still want to kill me? Gu Mingzhu was in pain and panic. Her voice was shrill. The black heaven-swallowing python did not even look at her. It was not interested in such an ant at all. Gu Mingzhu felt that the force on her body was getting stronger and stronger. She could not help but raise her head. Only then did she realize that she was already in front of the black hole. It was pitch black inside like an abyss. Once she entered, she would be doomed eternally. Her face was pale. She wanted to escape, but it was futile. No. The next moment, her body was completely swallowed up. In an instant, it was as if thousands of blades were crushing her body. Ah! An extremely shrill and miserable cry reverberated through the mountain. However, it quickly dissipated without a trace. Crack! A crack suddenly appeared on the mountain wall where Chu Luiyue's dagger was. Her body slid forward uncontrollably. The black heaven-swallowing python hissed again. The black hole in the sky spun even more crazily. The mountain wall beside Chu Luiyue suddenly collapsed. She lost her foothold and was instantly swept away by the terrifying power. She was dragged towards the terrifying vortex. A hint of satisfaction flashed in the black heaven-swallowing python's eyes. As long as it crushed Chu Luiyue looked at the darkness that was getting closer and closer. She could even see the black force entwining with each other. The next moment, her body was completely swallowed up. The darkness that made one despair surged from all directions. However, Just as the surrounding force was about to strangle her to death, a white figure suddenly appeared. A slender and fair hand tore through the boundless darkness and gripped her tightly. That hand was as warm and cool as usual, but Chu Luyue suddenly felt very hot. The scorching temperature spread from the point of contact all the way to the bottom of her heart. The next moment, she fell into a warm and broad embrace. The violent and terrifying force was instantly isolated outside. She had not seen the person's face clearly, but that familiar cold fragrance made her feel inexplicably at ease. She could not help but raise her head. Rongxiu. In the darkness, she could not see his face, but she was incomparably certain that it was him. The person who held her in his arms laughed softly, as if he was very happy. Chu Luyue could even clearly feel the vibration of his chest. Your eyesight is much better. You don't need to look to know that it's this prince. Chu Luyue's ears suddenly felt hot. It was dark here and she could not see anything. But he deliberately said that she had good eyesight. He was clearly making fun of her. If she was not too familiar with him, how could she recognize him with just a hand and an embrace? Why did you come? It's too dangerous here. At this moment, Chu Luyue remembered that Rongxiu had directly entered the black vortex with her. Rongxiu's hand gently brushed her back and shoulder. It was sticky to the touch. She did not know how much blood she had lost. His heart seemed to be ruthlessly stabbed by something, and his movements paused. It's precisely because it's dangerous that I came. Digression February. In view of the fact that His Highness Prince Li must appear today, the update will be late. Cough cough, there will be a 5th update later. Rongxiu, ha. Mobile users please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 148. Chu Luyue was held in his arms. She could clearly feel his heart beating in his chest, and his breath on her forehead when he spoke. He said that it was precisely because it was dangerous that he had to come. This sentence was said so lovingly, but so naturally. It was as if it was the most natural thing for him to do. However, everyone in this world cherished their lives. Who would do so much for another person without reservation? Even to the extent of disregarding the danger, regardless of life or death. Chu Luyue's hand suddenly clenched the front of his clothes and said in a low voice, Rongxiu, I really thought I was going to die just now. That kind of overwhelming darkness, that kind of helplessness and despair. She had experienced it once, and it was deeply engraved in her mind. She could not forget it. Whenever she thought of it, her heart would ache. Even her bones hurt. Rongxiu didn't dare to touch her wound. He carefully held her waist with one hand and caressed her hair with the other as he said softly, Don't worry. I'm here. Don't be afraid. Chu Luyue's eyes suddenly became hot. Her heart ached, and she felt uncomfortable. If at that time someone also said to her, I'm here. Don't be afraid. The flames crazily spread through her body. It was too painful. She closed her eyes and suddenly moved closer. She gently pressed her forehead against his chest. Rongxiu suddenly stopped. Rongxiu, why me? A muffled voice came. This was not the first time Chu Luyue asked this question. But this time it was obviously different. Rongxiu kissed her forehead and whispered in her ear. His voice was low and gentle. You're worth it. The person in his arms did not speak. Rongxiu said word by word. I have a lifetime to prove that you're worth it. This time she did not believe. This time she did not believe. However, one day she would believe. Chu Luyue still did not speak. Rongxiu knew her character best. He knew that she could not completely trust him in a short time, but he had enough patience. Hold on tight. Chu Luyue guessed that he was going to break out of the encirclement here, so she obediently hugged his lean waist. Although he knew that Rongxiu had been hiding his strength, his opponent was a black flying python after all. It would not be easy to deal with it. She thought for a moment and couldn't help but ask, How confident are you? Rongxiu was about to speak, when he felt the arm around his waist was exceptionally soft and warm. The person in his arms was at the age of budding, the time when a young girl was blooming her radiance. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. I am confident, but it will take some time. Old Sun had a panoramic view of the situation halfway up the mountain. His heart sank to the bottom. The black-winged heaven-devouring python, was determined to kill Chu Luiyue. It had even used such a killing move. Seeing Chu Luiyue being swallowed by the black vortex, Old Sun's back was drenched in cold sweat. No way. He must do it. Although there was no chance of winning, he couldn't just watch Chu Luiyue die like this. Old Sun gritted his teeth and held his breath. Silver light flickered on his fingertips as he was about to set up a Xian formation. However, at this moment, there was another change in the sky. A snow-white magical beast with a muscular body suddenly appeared. It looked like a lion, but Old Sun didn't recognize what it was. In his memory, there didn't seem to be such an existence. However, one thing was undeniable. This was a high-level demonic beast. It came from the horizon at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it had rushed to the front of the black-winged heaven-devouring python. When it saw the newcomer, the hatred in the black-winged heaven-devouring python's eyes almost overflowed. It looked as if it had accumulated hatred for a long time. Shue stared at it, and was also very angry. A few years ago, it had come here and fought with this fellow. At that time, the black-winged heaven-devouring python was still a 6th-grade demonic beast, and was beaten black and blue by it. It didn't expect that a few years later, this fellow would actually attack Chu Luiyue. It was really tired of living. Roar! Shue's angry roar almost shook the forest. All the demonic beasts felt a vast pressure coming and couldn't help but be filled with fear. This demonic beast that suddenly appeared seemed to be even stronger than the black-winged heaven-devouring python. The level suppression in their bones and blood caused them to crawl on the ground, not daring to move. When the black-winged heaven-devouring python saw this scene, it was filled with hatred. With a swing of its long tail, it wrapped around Shue. Shue quickly jumped and dodged its attack in a few seconds, arriving in front of it. Then, its claws slammed towards the black-winged heaven-devouring python's head. Pa! Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The black-winged heaven-devouring python's huge body flew out uncontrollably and smashed heavily on the mountain. Several cracks appeared on the mountain. Half of the mountain was on the verge of collapse. Old Sun was dumbfounded. This is 2 high-level demonic beasts fighting? Roar! Shue approached again. Without waiting for it to get up, it pressed down and beat it up again. With a claw, it directly tore off a large piece of its scales and flesh. The black-winged heaven-devouring python hissed in pain. The strength of both sides intertwined and collided fiercely. Rumble! The huge mountain was actually starting to collapse. Countless demonic beasts at the foot of the mountain started to flee in all directions. The entire Wanling mountain was in chaos. Old Sun wanted to take advantage of the chaos and go forward, but he bumped into a group of golden-eyed demonic beasts. They seemed to have been provoked by something. When they saw Old Sun, they rushed forward without hesitation. They seemed to want to risk their lives with him. Old Sun had a bad feeling. These demonic beasts seemed to have gone crazy. He was entangled with the golden-eyed demonic beasts. He wanted to break through the encirclement to save people, but these demonic beasts seemed to not care about their lives and trapped him tightly. Old Sun hurriedly looked up and saw the black vortex in the sky explode. He suddenly paused, and his face turned pale. On the other side, Si Ting and the rest also saw this scene, and were all speechless. Mu Hongyu turned around and covered her mouth, but her shoulders could not help but tremble. They are here. A few teachers suddenly rushed over, looking anxious. Retreat! The demonic beasts in Wanling Mountain are crazy. We have to leave as soon as possible. No. Lu Yu is still there. Sinhu roared angrily. Before he could finish speaking, he passed out. A teacher supported him and said with a frown, "Take them all away. We can't stay here for long." Si Ting suddenly turned around and walked into the depths of the forest. Digression. Would you believe me if I said that I got a disease that makes me sleepy whenever I look at a computer? Chapter 149. Si Ting. Stop right there. A teacher quickly stepped forward and blocked his way. It's so dangerous over there. How can you go? Si Ting's handsome face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost, and he looked exceptionally cold. The teacher was stunned when he saw him like this, but he still insisted. Now that 2 high-level fiends are fighting, the entire Wanling Mountain is going to be in chaos. If you go now, you'll just die. Even if something happens, there's still Elder Sun. We have to leave as soon as possible. Si Ting said coldly. There are still people who haven't come out. What time is it now? How can you still care about others? If this drags on, we might not even be able to leave safely. When the teacher behind them saw this, he couldn't stand it anymore and asked with a frown. He frowned and asked, Si Ting, you've always been calm and collected. What's wrong with you today? Si Ting's lips moved, and he clenched his jaw. Boom, 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 boom. The black whirlpool in the sky completely collapsed and turned into countless streaks of black light that scattered in all directions. At the same time, there were all kinds of fiends' sharp roars, which made one panic. Let's go. The teacher did not hesitate and grabbed Si Ting's shoulder. A few teachers joined forces and forcefully brought them away. Not long after they turned and left, there was a loud boom. Si Ting's heart skipped a beat. He looked back and saw that the mountain had completely collapsed. The battle between Xue Xue and the black flying python was very intense. The violent force caused the entire mountain to collapse, and the forest was in a mess. However, if someone could take a closer look, they would realize that this battle was completely one-sided. The black flying python was at a complete disadvantage. It did not even have the strength to retaliate. After a few rounds of fighting, its body was already covered in injuries. Its originally beautiful and hard scales were almost all pulled out. There were a few bloody holes in its abdomen, and blood was gushing out. Even its head was smashed open and dripping with blood. It looked very miserable. Its initial arrogance had completely dissipated. Only endless regret and fear were left in its eyes. It really regretted it. Ever since it was beaten black and blue by Xue Xue, it had been full of resentment and brooding. This Wanling mountain range was its territory. How could it allow others to behave atrociously? In the past few years, it had been holding its breath and cultivating in seclusion. Finally, it had broken through from rank 6 to rank 7. Now that it had met Zhang Xian once more, it had made up its mind to wipe away the humiliation it had suffered in the past. However, who could have known that Zhang Xian's strength had increased even more than it had? Previously, it was still able to withstand a few dozen moves, but this time, it was completely defeated. Most importantly, it was in front of so many magical beasts in Wanling Mountain. He had completely lost all his face. Pa! Xue Xue bit its tail and flung it out. The black flying python drew a long trail of blood on the ground, before finally smashing into a pile of rocks. Its body was covered in dust and blood. It was on the verge of death, unable to move, as if it would lose all signs of life in the next moment. Xue Xue looked at it, but there was still anger in its eyes. From the beginning to the end, it did not take this thing seriously, but it did not expect it to hold a grudge. He even wanted to kill Chu Luyue. If he didn't hit it, who would he hit? Just as it was about to continue its lesson, it suddenly paused and turned around. In the void, there was a transparent ripple. Soon after, a tall and slender figure walked out from within. It was Rongxiao. He was carrying a woman in his arms. It was Chu Luyue. Xue Xue's eyes were filled with guilt and pity when it saw the bloodstains on Chu Luyue's clothes and the shocking wounds. It quickly ran over, wanting to take a closer look at her. Rongxiao glanced at it. Xue Xue suddenly stopped in its tracks and lowered its head in self-reproach. Chu Luyue's eyes suddenly lit up. Only then did she realize that they had already escaped from the black whirlpool. She looked at Rongxiao in a daze. He actually really did it. Just what level had his strength reached? Sensing the movement beside her, she turned her head and saw Xue Xue. Then, she saw the black flying python lying in a pile of rocks not far away. It was unknown whether it was dead or alive. Its body was full of wounds, and there was almost no part of it that was unscathed. It could be seen how ruthless Xue Xue was. Chu Luyue opened her mouth. Xue Xue was actually so powerful. It could actually kill a 7th-grade demonic beast to such an extent, but it was unscathed. When this matter is over, you can go back and receive your punishment. Rongxiao said lightly. Xue Xue let out a low whimper and lowered her head even more. Chu Luyue tugged at Rongxiao's clothes. Alright. How are you going to punish Shue Shue? It was the one who dealt with the black flying python. Rongxiu narrowed his eyes. It stayed with you for too long, so you have a trace of its aura on you. This black flying python has a grudge with it. It sensed its aura on you, so it attacked you. Chu Luiyue was stunned for a moment. So it was because of this. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was puzzled about the black flying python's hostility towards her. She didn't expect it to be because of this. Forget it, Shue Shue didn't do it on purpose. It can only be said that it was too coincidental. Chu Luiyue liked Shue Shue very much. Although it caused such a blunder, she couldn't blame Shue Shue at the end of the day. Shue Shue felt even more ashamed and blamed itself. Its tail also hung down. Yes, but I only stayed with Shue Shue for a short period of time. It's not my demonic beast. Why do I have its aura on me? Chu Luiyue muttered doubtfully. Even if there was, it should be very faint. Logically speaking, it shouldn't cause the black flying python to have such a strong murderous intent. Shue Shue's body stiffened. Rongxiu's eyes darkened. There seemed to be a layer of fog between his eyebrows. He couldn't see clearly and said lightly, "It's probably because we spent too much time together. Just try not to meet in the future." Shue Shue looked up in shock. It couldn't believe that it had been betrayed just like that. During those nights, it had carefully brought Rongxiu's power over, and then carefully injected it into Chu Luiyue's body to nourish and heal her Yuan meridian. Even if it didn't take credit, it should have worked hard. Why did it turn against its demonic beast now? The aura in Chu Luiyue's body didn't belong to it. It was clearly Rongxiu's. It and Rongxiu had a master-servant relationship. Their auras were connected. It was fine that the black flying python had mistaken Chu Luiyue. But it actually misunderstood Chu Luiyue. Shue Shue wanted to protest, but it suddenly met Rongxiu's cold gaze. It immediately became obedient. Chu Luiyue nodded and didn't pursue the matter. She looked around and realized that the originally steep mountain peak had been leveled to the ground. She sighed in her heart. The power of a battle between high-level demonic beasts was indeed shocking. Rongxiu found a clean place and put her down. He pressed one hand on her back and continuously injected force into her. Chu Luiyue shook her head. "These are all superficial wounds. You don't have to do this." Rongxiu's other hand gently covered her eyes. "Rest for a while. We'll leave when you're done packing." Chu Luiyue's vision darkened. She couldn't help but ask, "Pack what?" Rongxiu's lips curled up slightly, but the smile didn't reach the corners of his eyes. "Of course it's time to clean it up. Of course it's time to clean it up." Chapter 150. Outside Wanling Mountain. Tianlu Academy students and teachers were waiting in silence. The atmosphere was stagnant, and no one said a word. The silence was suffocating. Some students were seriously injured and in a coma. Although some were fine, they were injured. At a glance, almost no one came out unscathed. Time ticked by, and the waiting became more and more unbearable. Occasionally, some people would look at Wanling Mountain. Their faces were no longer filled with anticipation and excitement. Instead, they were filled with fear. Who would have thought that something like this would happen in Wanling Mountain? Now it seemed like it still made people feel fearful. Suddenly, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. A few figures quickly flew out of the forest. Everyone looked over. The teachers standing at the very front all revealed joyful expressions. "You're finally back." There seemed to be a huge commotion in Wanling Mountain just now. What happened? That black flying python seemed to have used a killer move. It was too dangerous. Luckily you came out in time. They were waiting outside, so they could not see the situation inside. They could only vaguely hear loud noises, as if an intense battle had broken out. Two teachers went forward and handed Sun, Hu and Mu Hongyu to the people beside them to take care of. One of them sighed. "Don't mention it. That black flying python seemed to have gone crazy. It sent all the fiend beasts in the mountain range to surround that mountain. Mu Hongyu and the rest had a hard time escaping." Later on, another high-level magical beast appeared and fought with the black-winged heaven-swallowing python, raising the entire mountain to the ground. If we were any later, it would have been difficult for us to come out. What? An advanced fiend beast appeared? Everyone looked at each other, their hearts filled with shock. Didn't Elder Sun say that this place was the black flying python's territory? What was the advanced fiend beast that appeared later? It actually dared to fight with it head-on? We didn't see it clearly, but it was indeed very powerful. It was even more powerful than the black flying python. Everyone was speechless. The black flying python was a 7th grade fiend beast, and it was extremely powerful. What kind of fiend beast was more powerful than it? It was an existence that only appeared in legends. They were really unlucky this time to actually encounter such an opportunity. Where's Elder Sun? He didn't come back with you? Bai Chen glanced around and didn't see Elder Sun's figure, so he couldn't help but ask. The teachers looked a little embarrassed. After a while someone said, Elder Sun went to that mountain alone to save people. We couldn't get in touch with him. How is that possible? Isn't that too dangerous? Bai Chen frowned, but a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Wait a minute. Save people. In addition to Mu Hongyu and the others who had already returned, there was also, where are Chu Luiyue and Gu Mingzhu? The two of them are on that mountain. Master went to save them. Si Ting suddenly spoke. Everyone fell silent. Elder Sun was the strongest amongst them, but even he wasn't a match for the black-winged heaven-devouring python. If he went alone like this, it was simply, Elder Sun. A teacher inadvertently raised his head and saw a familiar figure walking out of the forest. He couldn't help but call out. Everyone hurriedly looked over. Bai Chen had just heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the bloodstains on Elder Sun's body. His expression changed, and he quickly rushed forward. Elder Sun, are you injured? Elder Sun waved his hand. It's just a small injury. Bai Chen looked at his gloomy expression and suddenly felt uneasy. Elder Sun actually came back alone. Elder Sun, Lu Yu and Gu Mingzhu. Elder Sun shook his head tiredly and sighed. I'm useless. I didn't manage to save them in time. They were all sucked into the black-winged heaven-devouring python's killer move. The moment he said this, the crowd fell silent. If even Elder Sun said this, then it was almost certain that the two of them were dead. How could they possibly be a match for the black-winged heaven-devouring python? Mu Hongyu suddenly stood up. I don't believe it. If he was alive, he wanted to see him. If he was dead, he wanted to see the corpse. I'll go find her. With that, she quickly walked forward. However, before she could take 2 steps, her vision turned black and she fainted. A teacher at the side immediately went forward to check on her. Her internal and external injuries are very serious. In addition, she lost a lot of blood. It's already very difficult for her to hold on until now. She suddenly fainted because of the shock. Elder Sun, you don't have to worry too much. Give her some medicine later and let her rest more. She'll recover. Elder Sun nodded, but he still looked a little dazed. He was still regretting and blaming himself for not being able to save the two of them. Before coming, I should have checked clearly. If he had done more research and sensed that the situation in Wanling Mountain had changed, he definitely would not have brought so many students here directly, and there would not have been so many casualties. This was practically the most tragic hunt in Tianlu Academy in recent years. Elder Sun, don't blame yourself too much. No one can be sure about this kind of thing. Who knows what happened to the black-winged heaven-devouring python? It suddenly went crazy this time. Bai Chen consoled him, but he also felt terrible. He had always thought highly of Chu Luiyue. Moreover, he was the one in charge of her entrance exam. Although he was not her teacher, he had always cared about her. However, he did not expect that. Elder Sun, Wanling Mountain is in chaos now. Let's hurry back to the academy. A teacher finally could not help but say, how could Elder Sun not know what to do now? However, how was he going to explain to his uncle master when he returned? Even if it was out of selfishness, he did not want to see Chu Luiyue die here. After a moment of silence, he closed his eyes and finally said, inform everyone that Tianlu Academy is to return immediately. The elders and teachers quickly took action and left in batches. Even Sun Hu and Mu Hongyu were taken away while they were unconscious. Gradually, most of the people had left. Si Ting walked to Elder Sun's side and hesitated for a moment before asking, Master, is what you said just now true? Elder Sun looked at him with a complicated gaze. He could actually see through Si Ting's thoughts. However, he let out a long sigh and patted Si Ting's shoulder. The last glimmer of light in Si Ting's eyes completely dimmed. Gu Mifeng, it's time to go. A teacher saw that Gu Mingfeng was still standing there without moving, so he spoke up. Gu Mifeng took a deep look in the direction of the mountain peak. There, the originally towering mountain peak had disappeared. Even though he was standing there, he could still feel the violent collapse of the mountain. They had agreed to meet outside the mountain, but now, even the mountain was gone. Perhaps in this life, he would never see that pair of clear and trusting eyes again. That teacher walked to his side. I know that you are upset that your sister met with an accident. However, things have already come to this. Gu Mifeng took a deep breath and turned to leave with that teacher. As the sun set in the west, everyone's figures disappeared from their original positions. Only the dense forest, under the illumination of the sunset, was strangely tranquil. A small stream extended from the forest and flowed down. The afterglow shone on it, and the water was clear and crystalline. Gradually, the stream seemed to be dyed red, and it looked exceptionally beautiful. Then, the red gradually became thicker and thicker, almost turning into a river of blood. The corpse of a golden-eyed demon beast was faintly discernible. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 151. Night fell, and a bright moon hung in the sky. The bright moonlight flowed down like water, and the branches and leaves of the trees swayed gently with the wind. The shadows cast by the trees were like seaweed swaying gently in the water, quiet and serene. Chu Luiyue was leaning against a thick tree. Beside her, Rong Xiu was also sitting on the ground, planning to help her clean her wounds. The most serious injury on her body was the broken bone in her shoulder. If it was not treated in time, it would not be good in the future. It was a good thing that even without her teaching, Rong Xiu seemed to be very familiar with this. His movements were gentle and quick. I'm helping you set your bones. Bear with it. Rong Xiu said in a low voice as his slender hand gently pressed down on her shoulder. Chu Luiyue nodded. She had suffered this kind of injury countless times in her previous life, so it was nothing. Rong Xiu gently placed his hand on her shoulder and then pushed. Chu Luiyue's body trembled from the pain. Rong Xiu looked at her and saw that the young girl's face was pale. Because of the pain, her forehead was covered in sweat. But from beginning to end, she did not make a sound as she forcefully swallowed the pain. Rong Xiu's eyes were slightly cold. He felt a bit of regret in his heart that he did not properly torture that bastard before taking care of him. His movements were even more gentle as he took off his white coat. With a chi-la sound, he tore it into strips and wrapped Chu Luiyue's wounds. Chu Luiyue heard this sound and turned her head to look. She could not help but smile. Your Highness, your clothes are very expensive. Isn't this too wasteful? Rong Xiu knew that she was teasing him, so he also smiled. It's no problem, it's just a piece of clothing. You can just compensate me with another one later. Chu Luiyue raised her brows. You really don't want to suffer a loss. Your Highness is really stingy. Rong Xiu's movements paused as his smile deepened. I've always been generous, but I'm stingy towards you. Chu Luiyue felt as if his heart was being gently rubbed by something. After this incident, an invisible barrier seemed to have been broken between her and Rong Xiu. Although neither of them said anything, their relationship did seem to be much closer than before. I'm already used to His Highness' stinginess, but I'm curious about something. Why did you come so coincidentally? This place was 2 days away from the Imperial capital, so it was absolutely impossible for Rong Xiu to arrive here in an instant. That meant that it was very likely that he had arrived here a long time ago. Rong Xiu's expression did not change. Rong Xiu said that she wanted to hunt a demonic beast, and it just so happened that there was a demonic beast tied here. So I came to take a look personally. I planned to choose a suitable one and bring it back to her. Rong Xiu was the current 8th princess. She was already 13 years old this year, which was indeed the age to find a magical beast to hunt. But this kind of thing could be left to his subordinates. Why did he have to do it himself? Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. You really care about the 8th princess. Rong Xiu did not mind that she had seen through him. Instead, he looked at her steadily. Yes, I do care about her very much. It went without saying who he was referring to. Chu Liyue's heart skipped a beat, and she did not know how to reply. At this moment, Xue Xue finally came back. It walked to Chu Liyue and put down the thing in its mouth. It was the blood ferret. When Xue Xue left earlier, Chu Liyue thought that since it was a high-level demonic beast, it should be very sensitive to the aura of other demonic beasts, so she asked it to help find this little thing. After the mountain collapsed, she actually did not have much hope in her heart, but this little thing risked its life for her, so she still remembered it. She did not expect to really find it, but at this moment, the little thing was lying on the ground motionless. Chu Liyue checked it, and found that it was still breathing weakly. She immediately heaved a sigh of relief. It was still alive. Sensing her touch, the little thing's tail suddenly moved, and then it slowly opened its eyes. Those round eyes clearly reflected Chu Liyue's face. It looked at her in a daze and blinked its eyes, as if it had not reacted. Chu Liyue carefully picked it up and pinched its ears. It's okay, now we are safe. Only then did the little thing realize that it was not dreaming. Its eyes widened, and then it hugged Chu Liyue's thumb and cried. It thought that it was already dead. It thought that it would never see her again. Chu Liyue saw that it was crying so sadly, and she found it funny and sad at the same time. Okay, come back with me. In the future, this kind of thing will not happen again, okay? This little thing was very congenial to her, and she liked it very much. Now that it was still alive, it was best to bring it back. Although it could not be treated as a magical beast to hunt, it could be treated as a pet magical beast to accompany her. When the little thing heard this, it realized that it could always be by her side in the future, and it could not help but cry even louder. After a long time, it stopped, but its body was still sobbing, and its eyes and nose were red. It looked pitiful and cute. It saw that Chu Liyue's shoulder was injured, so it obediently stayed by her side. Rongxiu looked at it from the side and suddenly said, "It's really lucky." Chu Liyue was in a good mood at this moment, and her eyes were curved. Yes. Previously, in order to help me, it was attacked by the black flying python, and then the mountain collapsed. As Chu Liyue spoke, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. This little thing was only a third-grade magical beast, and the kind that did not have much fighting power. How could it have withstood the black flying python's angry attack? Moreover, after the entire mountain collapsed, the situation was so chaotic, but it actually survived safely. Chu Liyue held it in her hand again, and looked at it over and over again. The little thing seemed to be tickled, and it rolled around happily in her hand. Chu Liyue was stunned. This little thing did not seem to be seriously injured. Other than a few scratches on its body, it was completely fine. Now that it was alive and kicking, who could imagine what it had gone through before? The most important thing was that Wanling Mountain was the black flying python's territory, and all the magical beasts here obeyed its orders due to the difference in level. The magical beast's attack was the best evidence. But this little thing seemed not to be affected. Not only did it not attack her together with the other magical beasts, but it also stood on her side and went against the black flying python. The more Chu Liyue thought about it, the more she found it strange. She carefully checked the little thing again, but did not find anything unusual. The little thing hugged her finger intimately, and its furry tail rubbed against her finger. Just as Chu Liyue was in a daze, Rongxiu suddenly stretched out his hand and took the little thing over. You need to rest now. Think about these things in the future. Chu Liyue felt that he was right, and she nodded. The little thing was suddenly forced away from the warm place, and it immediately woke up and stared fiercely at Rongxiu. Rongxiu glanced at it lightly. Humph. The little thing was frightened, and it immediately retracted its gaze, and obediently turned around to wait. Why do I smell blood on Xue Xue? Chu Liyue asked curiously. Although the smell was very faint, it was indeed there, and it was obviously stronger than the smell after the black flying python was killed. Xue Xue froze, and it turned around and lay on the ground, pretending that it did not hear anything. Rongxiu paused and quietly changed the topic. When you've recovered a little, we'll go back to the Imperial capital tomorrow, Huiyao said. You'll get a better reading experience from love. Chapter 152. 2 days later, the teachers and students returned to the academy, but they were not as excited and happy as they were when they left. The demonic beast riot in Wanling Mountain had caused many casualties. They were already very lucky to be able to come back alive, not to mention other things. The news quickly spread in the Imperial capital and caused a huge uproar. Peach Garden. Several elders and teachers gathered together. The atmosphere in the hall was very depressing. After a long time, Elder Sun sighed. Martial Uncle is in seclusion these days. When he comes out, I will report this matter and accept my punishment. Everyone looked at each other and comforted him. Elder Sun, this is indeed an accident. It's not your fault. Yes, Wanling Mountain has been very peaceful for decades. It's not the first time we went there to hunt demonic beasts. Who would have thought that this time? Elder Sun, if you didn't give the order to retreat in time, our casualties would be even greater. You don't have to blame yourself anymore. Elder Sun waved his hand, indicating that they didn't need to say anymore. A mistake is a mistake. We have to clean up the mess now. Is the casualty list out? Wen Yin immediately said, it's done. Ignoring the minor injuries, 57 people are seriously injured, and 14 people are dead. Elder Sun slowly clenched his hand. Why are there so many? Didn't you say there were 8 people? Yes, there were indeed 10 people who died at the beginning. Later, Yi Qing found the bodies of the 2 missing people under a cliff somewhere. What about the other 2? Wen Yin carefully looked at Elder Sun's expression and lowered his voice. The remaining 2 are Chu Luiyue and Gu Mingzhu. The mountain collapsed, and the 2 of them were swallowed into the black whirlpool of the black flying python. How could they survive? Therefore, the 2 of them were also included in the death list. Elder Sun was stunned when he heard their names. He was silent for a while. Inform their families. In addition, our academy will be fully responsible for this matter. Try your best to compensate them. Yes. Gu family. Slap. The crisp sound of a slap broke the silence in the room. Gu Mingfeng's head was tilted, and his face quickly became red and swollen. How did you take care of your sister? Why is she the only one who died when so many people are fine? Gu Meifeng, explain it to me today. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving this house. The Gu family's patriarch, Gu Wenhui, was furious. He slapped Gu Mingfeng as if it wasn't enough, so he slapped him again. There was a clear palm print on Gu Mingfeng's face. He looked at Gu Wenhui expressionlessly. It was just a glance, and then he lowered his eyes. This was his so-called father. In his eyes, there was only Gu Mingzhu. As for him, he was just an eyesore. She was not in the same team as me, so I don't know how she died. How dare you lie? Gu Wenhui was so angry that he kicked Gu Mingfeng in the chest and shouted angrily. Her profound formation black crystal was used, but she didn't survive. Other than you, who else knows that she has this thing on her? You've always been jealous of her. This time, weren't you the one who stole her things and tried to kill her? How could I, Gu Wenhui, give birth to a thing that is worse than an animal like you? There was a numbing pain in his chest, and Gu Mingfeng's face was a little pale. Gu Wenhui used all his strength in this kick. If not for the fact that he was a mystic master, and his physical strength was not that strong, this kick would have taken Gu Mingfeng's life. I don't know how she died. Gu Mingfeng repeated mechanically and indifferently. Besides, even Elder Sun couldn't save her. Father, do you think that a profound formation black crystal can save her? Gu Wenhui was so angry that he laughed. Good. You even know how to talk back now. Your wings have hardened. Why aren't you the one who died? Gu Mingfeng's eyelids twitched violently. In an instant, he felt that a part of his heart had completely collapsed. I should have seen it clearly. What was he? He was just a lowly existence that Gu Wenhui saw as a stain. Now this so-called father wanted nothing more than to use his life in exchange for Gu Mingzhu's. Why? Was it because his birth mother was of lowly birth? Was it because he was the product of Gu Wenhui's drunken stupor? Gu Mingfeng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and slowly stood up. His gentle face was expressionless, but his entire body was frighteningly cold. When Gu Wenhui saw him like this, he was even angrier. Get lost. You're not part of the Gu family anymore. Gu Mingfeng looked up. Since you're chasing me out, I'll naturally listen to you. From now on, I won't step into the Gu family anymore, so that I won't be an eyesore to you." Then he directly turned around and left. Gu Wenhui slapped the table into pieces. When Chu Ning received the news, he happened to be discussing important matters with Emperor Jiawen in the palace. This matter had too many implications, so Tianlu Academy had sent someone to report it early in the morning. After Chu Ning heard it, it was as if he was struck by lightning. He couldn't recover his senses for a long time. When Emperor Jiawen saw him like this, he could only sigh deeply, and then let him go back to rest for a few days. Chu Ning didn't know how he walked out of the palace, nor did he know where he had walked to. Everything around him seemed to have faded away, and he was the only one left in the world. He had never felt that his footsteps were so heavy. Every step he took was extremely tiring, and he even felt heart-wrenching pain. However, he didn't dare to stop. He was afraid that once he stopped, the despair and pain would completely drown him. "Hey, how can you walk like this?" On the streets, he walked in a daze. Someone hurriedly walked past him and bumped into him. That person said in disgust, but when he saw Chu Ning's clothes, he immediately realized that he had offended an important person. Thus, he hurriedly shut his mouth and left. When he left, he was still talking to the person beside him. "Yeah, who would have thought that Tianlu Academy would have so many casualties this time? I heard that more than 10 people died. What a pity. They were all rare geniuses. Hey, they said that Chu Luiyue, who just got in a while ago, seemed to have died as well. He's a genius among geniuses. So what? If he dies, he won't have a chance to come back to life." Chu Ning forced himself to stand up, lowered his head and walked forward. Someone stood in front of him. He looked up slowly, and took a while to recognize the person in front of him. Chu Yan. His face was filled with curiosity and pity, as he enunciated each word clearly. "Big brother, I heard that Chu Luiyue died? Oh, you will be alone in the future. What are you going to do?" Love Network has a better reading experience. Chapter 153. When Chu Yan heard the news, he immediately rushed over to look for Chu Ning. As expected, he saw him in a daze. He finally let out the breath that he had been holding in all this time. "Although you're no longer part of the Chu family, you're still my big brother. Something happened to Chu Luiyue, and as your younger brother, I'm really worried about you. Big brother, the dead can't come back to life. You have to restrain your grief." Chu Yan put on a sorrowful expression, but the pride and arrogance in his eyes were almost overflowing. Every word was like a knife that ruthlessly stabbed into Chu Ning's heart. It was as if his heart was going to be minced into pieces. Chu Ning used all the strength in her body to stand firm. She glared at him. "Are you done?" The suppression of a stage 5 warrior was not to be underestimated. Chu Yan subconsciously trembled when he glanced at him, and a sense of fear arose in his heart. However, he was in a good mood now, so he simply ignored it. "Hey big brother, why are you angry? You can't blame me for this. I'm just worried that you'll be too sad, so I'm here to console you. Think about how Chu Luiyue entered Tianlu Academy by passing all 3 assessments. He even booked the entire Phoenix restaurant to celebrate. How lively was that? At that time, who would have thought that things would turn out this way? Don't you think so?" As Chu Yan spoke, he deliberately sighed. "Originally, I thought that our Minmin wasn't outstanding enough, and was much worse than Chu Luiyue. However, I didn't expect that this time. It was because she had just recovered that she was extra careful and avoided so many dangers. Big brother, you see, fortune and misfortune come hand in hand. It's really hard to say. Sometimes some people are unparalleled, but who knows when they'll have to get lost." Chu Ning roared and kicked Chu Yan hard at the same time. Chu Yan was caught off guard, and was kicked directly. In addition, his strength couldn't be compared to the current Chu Ning, so Chu Ning's angry kick directly broke his bones. Chu Yan fell to the ground, and his face was pale from the pain. Chu Ning's face was terrifyingly gloomy as he quickly walked forward. Chu Yan was struggling to stand up, but before he could, Chu Ning's foot had already mercilessly stepped on his wrist. Crack! The sound of bones breaking was especially crisp. "Ah!" Chu Yan cried out in pain, and almost fainted. Chu Ning, on the other hand, grabbed him by the collar and punched him in the face. This person. He didn't want to endure it for even a moment. The people at the side had already recognized the identity of these two people. At first, they didn't dare to stop the fight, but in the end, when they saw Chu Ning's eyes were scarlet red, and he grabbed the unconscious Chu Yan and wildly beat him up, as if he was determined to beat him to death, some people carefully tried to stop the fight. Lord Chu Ning, please stop hitting him. If you continue hitting him, he will die. However, Chu Ning did not seem to care at all. Instead, he slammed Chu Yan's head onto the ground. It was good that he was dead. If he died, the Chu clan would come and collect his corpse. Thinking of this, Chu Ning's movements paused as he suddenly thought of something. Eunuch men came to report that Wanling Mountain's peak had collapsed, and Yuer's corpse was nowhere to be found. However, if he was alive, he wanted to see him. If he was dead, he wanted to see his corpse. Even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground of Wanling Mountain, he would still search for it. Chu Ning threw Chu Yan to the ground, turned around and left quickly. When he heard that Chu Ning was here, Elder Sun personally went out to welcome him. When he saw Chu Ning covered in blood, he was shocked. Lord Chu Ning, what happened to you? Chu Ning stared at him. Elder Sun, I have a favor to ask. I want to go to Wanling Mountain to look for Yuer. I heard that you were the last person to see her, so I would like to ask you to tell me the specific location, so that I can start searching from there. How could Elder Sun not know what he was thinking? However, Lord Chu Ning, we are all very sad that something happened to Lu Yu. It is normal for you to want to look for her. However, at that time, she was swallowed by the black whirlpool created by the black flying python. Chu Ning's face became paler. His body swayed, and he almost fell down. He knew about the black heaven-swallowing python. Once one was sucked into it, it would be difficult to find his corpse. Elder Sun hurriedly supported him and closed his eyes. So, even if you go, I am afraid it will be in vain. Our academy has an unshirkable responsibility for this matter. Please tell me the location. I will look for her. Chu Ning slowly pushed his hand away and said firmly, Chu. Elder Sun wanted to persuade him again, but when he saw Chu Ning's expression, he couldn't bear it. He took a deep breath and said, Lord Chu Ning, to tell you the truth, I felt uneasy on the way back with the academy's students, so I went back to Wanling Mountain once. Chu Ning was stunned. Elder Sun paused and recalled the scene that time. He was still shocked. The entire Wanling Mountain was washed with blood. All the magical beasts had been killed. The river that spread out from the forest was completely dyed red with blood. Countless fiends' corpses floated on the river. That scene was really purgatory on earth. Wanling Mountain, which was originally bustling with life, became silent. Only the bloody smell that filled the sky made one's heart tremble. This was most likely caused by the high-level fiend that appeared that day. However, Elder Sun looked around and couldn't find any trace of it. Under such circumstances, it would be difficult to find any traces of them when they were alive, let alone find Chu Luyue. Chu Ning looked defeated and was silent for a long time. But in the end he still stubbornly said, This time, I must go. No matter whether he could find her or not, he must go. My Yuer is most afraid of being alone. I will bring her. He turned around stiffly. After taking a step, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground unconscious. Let's go home. For mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 154. Elder Sun got someone to send Chu Ning home, and hired someone to take care of him in case anything happened to him. He could understand Chu Ning's feelings, but he did not know what would happen if he went out alone in his current state. How could he not be sad? Back then, he thought highly of Chu Luyue, and even wanted to take him in as his disciple. If Uncle Master did not beat him to it, he might really be his master now. Elder Sun felt bitter seeing such an outstanding genius fall with his own eyes, but he could not do anything about it. After sending Chu Ning away, Elder Sun locked himself in the house, and did not come out for a long time. The dying Chu Yan was sent back to the Chu family, but it did not cause much of a stir. Instead, many people laughed at him. Ever since Chu Luiyue came to make a scene and took away a large portion of the Chu family's assets, everyone in the Chu family hated Chu Yan and Lu Yao to the core. Of these two people, one used his identity as the third young master to abuse his power, while the other took advantage of the fact that he was in charge of the Chu family's finances and pocketed almost all of the Chu family's assets. If it were not for the fact that the Chu family did not want the two of them to fill this hole, the Chu family would not have tolerated them. Besides, Chu Xianmin was just a concubine in Crown Prince Mansion. She could not do anything, so they were even more unscrupulous. Who would still put them in their eyes? The servant reported the news to First Elder, but he only sneered in return. He dug his own grave by provoking Chu Ning. Who can he blame? With Chu Luiyue dead, the Chu family could finally vent their anger. Who would not be secretly happy? However, out of so many people, only the brainless Chu Yan went straight to Chu Ning. No matter what, Chu Ning was already a stage 5 warrior and was not to be trifled with. Only a stupid person would go against Chu Ning directly. First Elder, as the Imperial Guard's commander-in-chief, Chu Ning beat Third Master half to death. This is not appropriate. Should we report this to His Majesty? First Elder's mouth twitched. He's stupid, but all of you are stupid as well. Chu Luiyue just died, and Chu Ning is devastated. Why would His Majesty pursue this matter at this time? Besides, it was Chu Ning who provoked him first. So many people were present at that time, and they clearly heard his **T. Even if we report this to His Majesty, we will not be in the right. Rather than this, we might as well deal with this matter quietly. First Elder is right. If he could ruthlessly trample on him at this time, that would be called venting his anger. There's no need for us to do anything. Chu Ning won't be able to hold on. Chu. Only Chu Ning is left. Can't he slowly deal with him in the future? Pity. Chu Luiyue died so easily outside. She really got off easy. First Elder muttered in a low voice. Only by personally dealing with Chu Luiyue can the hatred in his heart be quenched. Has there been any news from the Crown Prince? Why is His Majesty so cold to the Crown Prince these days? First Elder pondered for a moment and changed the topic. The palace has a tight lockdown on information. We have investigated in private, but we couldn't get any information. However, there is one thing that is a bit strange. The Crown Prince was urgently summoned to the palace on the night of his wedding with the third miss. No one knows what His Majesty said to him, but after he came out, the Crown Prince returned to his residence and never came out. Before that, His Highness Third Prince entered the palace. This matter is related to His Highness Third Prince. Not necessarily, but His Highness Third Prince is currently being held in the capital by His Majesty and has yet to return to the Northwest Army. First Elder's brows wrinkled. A few days ago, he personally sent a letter but was rejected. It can be seen that the Crown Prince's situation is worse than expected. Vaguely, he felt that the Crown Prince's position is in danger. But they have always been on good terms with the Crown Prince. They are already in the same boat. At this time, it would be wishful thinking to seek refuge with another prince. Therefore, they must find a way to help the Crown Prince out of his current predicament. Mu Hongyu was unconscious for an entire day and night. When she woke up, she sat on the bed in a daze. Her whole body seemed to have been drained of all strength. Her mind seemed to be blank, but everything that happened in Wanling Mountain kept replaying in her mind. All the scenes were clearly replayed over and over again, making her extremely uncomfortable. If they stopped Lu Yu at that time, then everything that happened later wouldn't have happened. They were the ones who thought they were lucky, and they were too relaxed. No matter how strong Lu Yu is, she is just a student like them. She even entered the school half a year later than them. How could they let her face a magical beast of the 7th rank alone? That's a very powerful being. Even the elders in the school might not be its match, let alone Lu Yu. Mu Hongyu thought in a daze as tears fell silently. Then she slapped herself harshly. Slap. The crisp sound of the slap was particularly clear in the quiet room. Her face was burning with pain, but it was nothing compared to the self-blame and guilt in her heart. Woo! The golden mane bear cub felt the heavy sadness from her body and seemed to be infected. It crawled over and hugged her arm as it whimpered softly. Mu Hongyu buried her head in her arms and sobbed silently. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Mu Hongyu hurriedly looked up, wiped the tears on her face, and dragged her tired and painful body to open the door. "Who is it?" When she saw the face of the person outside the door, Mu Hongyu's face immediately turned cold. She did not say anything and wanted to close the door. Even if the person was wearing a veil and only revealed a pair of eyes, she could immediately recognize that it was Chu Xianmin. "Hey, wait!" Chu Xianmin held the door with one hand and stopped Mu Hongyu's actions. "I heard that you were injured, so I came to visit you out of goodwill. Why are you in such a hurry to close the door?" Chu Xianmin said as her eyes quickly swept across Mu Hongyu's face, and the corners of her eyes twitched. Mu Hongyu was enraged by her gaze, and her voice was cold. "I don't welcome you here. Leave quickly. It won't do you any good to provoke me." Mu Hongyu seemed to smile. "You're not my match even when you're at your peak, let alone now that you're injured. This kind of threat is meaningless. What do you want?" Mu Hongyu had completely lost her patience. Chu Xianmin suddenly took a step closer. A sinister look flashed across her eyes as she smiled slowly. "Chu Luiwei is dead. I heard that you were quite close to her, so I came to visit you. Look at you. She must have died very miserably, right?" Chapter 155. You. Upon hearing this, the anger in Mu Hongyu's heart was completely ignited. She raised her hand and slapped Chu Xianmin's face. Chu Xianmin did not back down. She clamped down on Chu Xianmin's hand and pushed it hard. Mu Hongyu's body fell to the ground uncontrollably. The wounds on her body split open again, and blood flowed out, leaving bloodstains on her clothes. She was seriously injured and was at her weakest. She was no match for Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin stepped through the door and looked down at her with a mocking gaze. "Are you angry? What's there to be angry about? Am I not telling the truth? I heard that Chu Luiwei died in the hands of the black flying python. The entire mountain collapsed. I'm sure there's nothing left of her now, right?" Mu Hongyu's chest churned as black shadows flashed across her eyes. "You. Get lost." Chu Xianmin chuckled. "I came to see you out of goodwill. But you're so against it, and even want to chase me away. You really don't know how to appreciate my kindness. However, don't worry. Chu Luiwei harmed me to this extent. I won't let it go so easily. It's a pity that I didn't get to finish her off personally, and didn't even see how she died. Since you're so close to her, I'll put this on your head in the future. I'll slowly repay you in the future." As she spoke, she turned around and was about to leave. The golden mane bear cub suddenly chased after her from behind and bit Chu Xianmin's calf harshly. "Ah!" Chu Xianmin cried out in pain and quickly looked down. When she saw that it was the golden mane bear cub, she was shocked and angry. "Get lost!" The golden mane bear cub was flung away and fell to the ground. Its body shook, and it spat out a piece of flesh from its mouth that was full of blood. It had actually bitten off a piece of flesh from Chu Xianmin's calf. Chu Xianmin's face was pale from the pain. Her heart trembled as she looked at the bloody wound on her calf. She had finally recovered from her injury, but she was attacked by this little bastard again. Such a deep wound would definitely leave a scar. "You're courting death." She suddenly pulled out the sword at her waist and slashed at the golden mane bear cub. The golden mane bear cub looked up at her, and its fur suddenly stood up. His eyes were filled with hostility. When the long sword landed, it actually charged straight at Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin's sword barely grazed the little golden mane bear's back. However, the golden mane bear cub was a natural 4th grade magical beast. Its physical strength was extremely strong, and it dodged quickly. The sword only managed to cut off some of its fur. Not even a single wound was left behind. Bang! The golden mane bear cub slammed its head into Chu Xianmin's stomach, causing her to fall to the ground. The back of Chu Xianmin's head hit the ground hard, and her brain buzzed. She was furious. She kicked the golden mane bear cub away and struggled to get up. She raised her sword and stabbed at the bear cub's exposed abdomen. "Song song!" Mu Hongyu exclaimed and pounced over. The tip of Chu Xianmin's sword had already reached Mu Hongyu's back. Clang! A rock flew from the side and accurately hit the sword, causing Chu Xianmin's sword to deviate. It narrowly grazed Mu Hongyu's side. Chu Xianmin turned around angrily. Who dares? The moment she spoke, she stopped as if someone was strangling her. The person who came was Mr. Wen Yan. He quickly went forward and helped Mu Hongyu up. After making sure that she was fine, he looked at Chu Xianmin again with an ugly expression. Chu Xianmin, what are you doing? He originally wanted to see how Mu Hongyu was recovering, but he did not expect to see Chu Xianmin standing at the door from afar with a sword in her hand. When he got closer, he clearly saw Chu Xianmin attacking Mu Hongyu. This is the academy. Are you crazy? How dare you attack your own classmate? Chu Xianmin knew that something was wrong. The door was not closed, and Mr. Wen Yan must have seen it clearly. She hurriedly tried to defend herself. Mr. Wen Yan, listen to me. It's not what you think. I just wanted to visit Mu Hongyu. Her fiend attacked me first, and I fought back to protect myself. Wen Yan did not believe a single word of this explanation. Cut the crap. When did your relationship with Mu Hongyu become so good? Chu Xianmin secretly bit her lip. Mr. Wen Yan, I'm telling the truth. Look if you don't believe me. This is the wound it left on me. Chu Xianmin pointed at her calf as she spoke. Wen Yan frowned and looked over. Indeed, a piece of flesh had been forcefully torn off. He turned around and glanced at Mu Hongyu and the golden mane bear cub. The golden mane bear cub was still vigilant as it stared at Chu Xianmin. Wen Yan shook his head and said with disappointment, Fiends are very sensitive. Magical beasts are the most sensitive, especially young ones. The reason why it's so wary of you is obviously because it has sensed your hostility. Mu Hongyu is its master. Do you want me to continue asking why it's treating you like this? Chu Xianmin was a little flustered. Mr. Wen Yan. All right. You're also injured now, so we're barely even. I won't pursue this any further. Quickly go back and recuperate. Don't let this happen again in the future. Wen Yan interrupted her and looked a little impatient. Yes. Chu Xianmin knew that there was no point in continuing to argue. She could only clench her teeth and swallow her anger as she turned around and limped away. Wen Yan looked at her back view for a long time and sighed. Chu Xianmin used to be smart and hardworking. How did she become like this? Mu Hongyu hugged the golden mane bear cub and patted it for a while. It finally recovered from its previous state and lay in Mu Hongyu's arms softly. Wen Yan turned around and saw that she was in a daze with red eyes. He did not know how to comfort her. He took out a letter from his sleeve. Hongyu, your father, Prince Pingjiang, wrote a letter. Chu Xianmin returned to her residence and treated her wound. However, the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. When Chu Luiyue was still alive, he caused her to suffer a crushing defeat. Not only did he disfigure her, but he also forced her to marry into the crown prince mansion as a concubine. She could not lift her head up until now. Now that she was dead, he was still haunting her. She could not take this lying down. After thinking for a while, she suddenly stood up and walked toward Peach Garden. In Peach Garden, Ling Zhu was dealing with the compensation for the injured students when he heard the news of Chu Xianmin's arrival. He put down the things in his hands and walked to the courtyard. He immediately saw Chu Xianmin, who was waiting there. Xianmin, why are you here? Ling Zhu used to admire Chu Xianmin a lot. Even though he vaguely felt that she had changed after she returned, he did not pay much attention to it. It was normal for her to change after what happened previously. Chu Xianmin glanced inside without batting an eyelid. Mr. Ling Zhu, is elder son here? There's something I want to report. Ling Zhu shook his head. Elder son is busy right now. I'm afraid he doesn't have time to see you. You can tell me anything. I'll pass it on to elder son later. Chu Xianmin hesitated for a while but still spoke. Mr. Ling Zhu, the Tianling dynasty's envoy seems to be coming soon. Ling Zhu was stunned, and his expression became much more serious. Yes, why are you suddenly asking about this? Chu Xianmin paused and seemed to hesitate. Sister's accident was too sudden. However, since the matter has been decided, it's not appropriate to go back on it at the last minute. I wonder if old son plans to send someone else up? Love Network has a better reading experience than this. Chapter 156. Ling Zhu never expected that Chu Xianmin would come here immediately to talk about this matter, before Chu Liyue's body had even turned cold. Even if Chu Liyue had severed ties with the Chu family, they still had the same blood flowing in their veins. How could Chu Xianmin say all this without changing her expression? Wasn't she stepping on Chu Liyue's dead body? Ling Zhu's expression was a little stiff. Xianmin, did you look for elder son just to talk about this? Chu Xianmin also noticed that his expression was a little off. She lowered her eyes and made a sorrowful expression. Teacher Ling Zhu, I know it's not appropriate to say this now, but the dead can't be brought back to life. As the living, we should do what we should do. The Tianling dynasty is such a powerful existence. If we don't deal with this properly, this is not something you should worry about. You should go back and rest first. Ling Zhu looked at Chu Xianmin's sorrowful expression and felt nauseous. If Chu Xianmin cared about Chu Liyue even a little, she would never do such a thing. Since she could say it, why did she have to be so pretentious? Chu Xianmin did not notice Ling Zhu's gaze and asked hesitantly, Then this matter? I'll discuss it with elder son when he's free. Ling Zhu averted his gaze. Chu Xianmin was then relieved. Okay, I'll go back first. Please continue with your work. She then turned around and left. Walking out of Peach Garden, Chu Xianmin's lips curled up under her veil. Chu Liyue was already dead, and the academy would definitely find someone to replace him. Naturally, she was the most suitable person as the second in rank. The Tianling dynasty was a powerful existence that only existed in legends. If she could use this opportunity to build a relationship with them, she would not have to worry about not being able to achieve great things in the future. Now, everyone said that she was down and out and no longer had her former glory. Even the servants in Crown Prince Mansion dared to treat her badly. When she made a comeback, she would see how those people would continue to mock her. Ling Zhu watched Chu Xianmin leave. When her figure completely disappeared, he finally let out a long sigh and rubbed between his brows. Other than anger, there was also confusion in his heart. When did Chu Xianmin become like this? Or had he misjudged her from the very beginning? After settling this matter, Chu Xianmin wanted to go back and have a good rest. However, before she could reach her residence, the Chu family sent someone to inform her that Chu Yan had been beaten half to death by Chu Ning. Lu Yao wanted her to go back quickly. Chu Xianmin was shocked, but she did not care about her injury. She applied for leave from the teacher and returned to the Chu family. Chu Xianmin had mixed feelings when she walked to the Chu family's door again. She did not want to go in for a moment. Ever since she married into the Crown Prince's residence, she had not returned to the Chu family. At that time, she had been coldly married off. It could be said that she had lost all the face she had accumulated over the past 10 years. Originally, she had wanted to wait until her days in the Crown Prince's residence were better before returning. However, the Crown Prince had shut himself in his study these days. It was difficult to even see him once, let alone talk about other things. While she was hesitating, the servant in front of the gate had already seen her and said in a strange tone, "Oh, I was wondering who it was. So it's third miss. You don't look well. Could it be that you're having a hard time in the Crown Prince's mansion?" Chu Xianmin felt even more humiliated. However, if she did not go in, it would seem that she was afraid. She took a deep breath and didn't say a word as she walked in without looking sideways. After she left, the servants at the gate looked at each other and laughed in unison. Chu Xianmin dug her nails deep into her palms to suppress the anger in her heart. Along the way, the servants who passed by all mocked and ridiculed her when they saw her. They did not take her seriously at all. When Chu Xianmin finally reached Chu Yan and Lu Yao's residence, her palms were already bleeding from the clenched fists. Lu Yao was standing outside the door. When she saw her, she hurriedly walked over. "Minmin, you have to save your father." Chu Xianmin took a deep breath and walked into the house. "How is father now?" Lu Yao wiped the corners of her eyes and said resentfully, "It's all because of that Chu Ning. He actually beat your father up like that on the streets. If he hadn't been treated in time, I'm afraid." Chu Xianmin walked into the house and saw that Chu Yan was still unconscious. His face was bruised and swollen, and there was almost no part of his body that was unharmed. One could imagine how ruthless Chu Ning was. How did father get hurt like this? Didn't the residents invite anyone to come and take a look? Lu Yao sighed helplessly. Ever since Chu Luiyue came and caused a ruckus, your father's and my status in the residence plummeted, and we became a thorn in everyone's side. They couldn't be happier that your father was beaten up. Why would they help get someone to come and take a look? Most of the money under your father's, and my name has been taken away by them. What's left is not enough to invite those famous doctors. We can only drag it on like this. Minmin, I asked you to come back this time to ask if you have any way to help. At the mention of this, Chu Xianmin was also very frustrated. Wasn't this part of the reason why the Chu family treated her like this? What can I do? I'm already in a difficult enough situation myself. How can I help you? Besides, the crown prince has been staying in the study. I can't even see him, let alone ask the crown prince for help. Lu Yao was also anxious. Then what should we do? Are we just going to watch your father suffer like this? Chu Xianmin was silent for a while before she finally said, Forget it. Don't be anxious now. I'll think of a way to raise some money for you to hire a better doctor for my father first. I'll think of a way to deal with the crown prince. After this period of time, the Tianling dynasty's people will come, and it will be our day to shine. Lu Yao was confused. What? Where did this come from? Chu Xianmin touched the veil on her face. Chu Luiyue is dead. I'll take her place and meet the Tianling dynasty's envoy. As long as I meet him, I'll have a chance to make a comeback. Lu Yao's eyes lit up. Why didn't she think of that? When Chu Xianmin returned to Crown Prince Mansion, it was already night time. She went straight to the study and wanted to see the Crown Prince. As expected, she was rejected again. However, she did not go back directly this time. Instead, she was very persistent. Your Highness, I know that you've been troubled recently, so I'm here to help you. Please meet me. If you don't think it's possible, I won't disturb you again in the future. After saying that, she waited quietly. After some time, Rong Jin's voice was finally heard. Let her in. Let her in. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 157. Chu Residence. Chu Ning was unconscious for a day. He only woke up the next morning. He opened his eyes and took a while to recognize that he was in his own house. No, wasn't he at Tianlu Academy, discussing with elder son about going to Wanling Mountain to find you? Why was he back home in the blink of an eye? He struggled to get up, but knocked over the teacup beside the bed. Hearing the commotion, the person waiting outside hurriedly came in. Lord Chu Ning, you're awake? Chu Ning looked blankly at the man who came in. You are? I'm a teacher at Tianlu Academy Xianshi. Elder son asked me to send you back. Now that you're awake, I can go back without worry. After guarding outside for a night, Xianshi looked a little haggard, but his eyes were full of sincerity. You were too anxious, so you suddenly fainted yesterday. It's not a big deal. You just need to rest for 2 days, and you'll recover. Chu Ning finally reacted. Thank you. Xianshi hurriedly shook his head. You're welcome. We're all worried about your health. Please take care. Since you're fine now, I'll take my leave first. Chu Ning nodded. Xianshi saw that he seemed to have calmed down, and he felt relieved. He reminded him a few more times before turning to leave. Chu Ning, who was sitting in the room, heard the sound of the door opening and closing clearly. His eyes were empty like a bottomless abyss. After a while, he finally got up and walked out with stiff and heavy steps. Not long after Xianshi walked out, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw Chu Ning walking out as well. He was expressionless, and his whole body emitted a cold aura. Xianshi walked back quickly. Lord Chu Ning, why are you out so soon? You need to have a good rest. Chu Ning pushed away his hand that was about to support him and said word by word. I'm going to find you. I've already been delayed for an entire night yesterday. I can't be late again today. I have to go quickly. Xianshi was helpless. Given Chu Ning's current state, people might even believe that he had gone mad. How could he let him go to Wanling Mountain alone? He tried to pull him back but failed. He could only run in front of Chu Ning and block his way. Please listen to my advice, Lord Chu Ning. No matter what you want to do, you should first take care of your body, right? Now that you're like this, what if something happens? Chu Ning walked around him and stubbornly walked forward. I must go, I must go. At this moment, a young girl's clear voice suddenly came from behind. Father, where are you going? Chu Ning's body trembled. He couldn't be more familiar with this voice. But could it be that he missed you or too much that he was hearing things? Father? The voice was right behind him. Chu Ning wanted to turn around immediately, but his body was extremely stiff, and he couldn't move at all. Xianxue raised his head and saw a young girl coming from the corner of the Bluestone Road. She was slender and graceful, and her appearance was clear and beautiful. The corners of her mouth held a smile, and her pair of limpid autumn water eyes shimmered with light, and it actually caused everything in the surroundings to lose color in an instant. Who else could it be but the dead Chu Luiyue? Xianxue's heart trembled. He opened his mouth and couldn't help but point a finger at her. You're Chu Luiyue? Chu Luiyue looked at him in confusion. Teacher Xianxue, don't you recognize me? Although she didn't have much contact with this teacher, it seemed that she should recognize him. Xianxue fiercely pinched himself. It was excruciatingly painful, but he immediately rejoiced in his heart. It's really you. It's really you. He excitedly patted Chu Ning's arm. Lord Chu Ning, quickly look. Lu Yu is really back. Quickly look. Chu Ning's ears were buzzing. Chu Luiyue finally sensed that something was wrong. She quickly walked forward. Father, what's wrong? Xianxue hurriedly explained. You don't know. Everyone thought that you had. Lord Chu Ning said that he wanted to go to Wanling Mountain to find you. I didn't expect that you would come back like this. That's great. Chu Luiyue suddenly understood. That's right. In that situation, no one would think that she could come back alive. It turned out that the place that father insisted on going to was Wanling Mountain. When everyone thought that she was dead, her father still wanted to look for her. Chu Luiyue's nose twitched. Her heart was filled with guilt. She reached out and hugged Chu Ning's arm. Father, you is back. His arm, which was touched by her, instantly melted like the spring water. The stiff and cold feeling instantly dissipated. It became warm and soft, and then quickly spread. Chu Ning's body could finally move. He slowly turned his head, and finally saw the face that he thought he would never see again. Chu Luiyue was shocked when she saw his appearance. In just a few days, the originally clean and handsome Chu Ning seemed to have changed into another person. His face was unshaven, his eyes were dark green, and his eyes were bloodshot. Especially between his brows, there was a trace of gray and dispirited aura that was faintly discernible. His entire person was like a walking corpse that had lost its soul. Her eyes instantly turned red. Father, I'm sorry. You came back late. Chu Ning looked at her without blinking. He held her hand tightly, as if he was afraid that she would disappear again. You are. His voice almost broke Chu Luiyue's heart. She held back her tears. Father, let's go home first. Yes. Let's go home. Chu Ning finally came back to life. Let's go home. Xianxue was also very happy at the side. Lord Chu Ning, Lu Yu, you two go home first. I'll go back to the academy and tell elder son and the rest that you're back. They've been worried sick these few days. After that, he turned around and left quickly. Xianxue actually admired Chu Luiyue very much. Now that he saw that she had returned safely, he was also very happy. He couldn't hide the smile on his face. When they reached the academy, many people were curious when they saw his energetic and smiling face. Not long after, they bumped into Bai Chun. Bai Chun asked curiously, Xianxue, didn't elder son send you to take care of Lord Chu Ning? Now that you're back, is Lord Chu Ning better? Xianxue chuckled. Of course. Not only is he better, but he's completely recovered. Where's elder son? I have something important to tell him immediately. Bai Chun looked at him and found it very strange. Are you serious? Lord Chu Ning was heartbroken yesterday. Why is he completely recovered now? Elder son is still busy. What's so important that you have to tell him so urgently? Xianxue patted his chest. Haha. I won't hide it from you. Anyway, the whole Imperial City will know about this very soon. Chu Luiyue. She's back alive. Chu Xianmin, who had just walked in, suddenly stopped in her tracks as if she was struck by lightning. She looked up in disbelief. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 158. Bai Chen was shocked. What did you say? I said Chu Luiyue isn't dead. She's still alive. She even came back to the Imperial City this morning. She's accompanying Lord Chu Ning at home. Xan Shi repeated his words with confidence. Elder son has been blaming himself for this for the past 2 days. I'll go tell him the good news now. Then he laughed and was about to leave. Bai Chen hurriedly pulled him back and asked in disbelief. Is what you said true? Elder son clearly said that little Lu Yu was swallowed by the black flying python's black whirlpool. Logically speaking, she should have died. How could she still be alive? Actually, I find this strange too. However, she was standing in front of me just now. I have no choice but to believe it. Bai Chen, if you still don't believe me, why don't you go and see for yourself? However, the father and daughter are finally reunited. I think it's not too late to wait until she takes care of Lord Chu Ning and returns to the academy. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. I'll go and find elder son. Xian Shi walked away quickly after he finished speaking. Bai Chen hesitated for a moment, but did not want to disturb them at this time. He had seen Chu Ning's state the day before. The father and daughter probably had a lot to talk about. He should wait here patiently. Hey, Xian Shi, wait for me. I'll go too. Bai Chen shouted and quickly caught up with Xian Shi's footsteps. He wanted to listen carefully and find out what was going on. The two of them left for a while, but Chu Xianmin, who was standing at the door, still could not react. Chu Luiyue is still alive. How is this possible? Elder son had clearly said that she had already died in the hands of the black-winged heaven-devouring python. Why had she returned now? This is ridiculous. This sounded like a fantasy story, but teacher Xian Shi had no reason to lie. Judging from his expression, it was obvious that he had confirmed it. However, if Chu Luiyue really came back alive, then what should I do? Chu Xianmin's face turned pale at this thought. Last night, she finally got the chance to meet the Crown Prince. She told the Crown Prince that she could replace Chu Luiyue as the #1 warrior and meet with the envoy of the Tianling dynasty. As long as he grasped this opportunity, there was still hope. He might even be able to improve the Crown Prince's situation. Although she did not know what had happened, she vaguely guessed that the Crown Prince had been punished by His Majesty. If he wanted to help the Crown Prince, he needed someone important to speak up for him. The Crown Prince had clearly thought of this and treated her much better. Not only did he allow her to move to Wudong Garden, which was closer and better to his residence, he also gave orders to reward her with many things. The servants of the Crown Prince's residence were the best at adapting to the situation. When she left the residence in the morning, they changed their previous disrespect and became much more attentive. She had just asked someone to invite a doctor to treat her father, thinking that all the problems would be solved. But now, she forced herself to walk forward. But as soon as she took a step, she realized that her legs were weak and she fell to the ground. The news of Chu Luiyue coming back alive from Wanling Mountain spread quickly in the college, and then to the entire capital city. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Some were shocked, some were happy, and some were angry. For a moment, some were happy, and some were sad. Many people wanted to find out what had happened, but Chu Luiyue stayed at home to take care of Chu Ning. He did not even leave the house for the whole day. Her heart ached for Chu Ning to be so haggard because of her. She threw everything else to the back of her mind and took good care of him. She also took the time to rest. Chu Luiyue's return put Chu Ning and the rest at ease, but some others were stunned. The Chu family, after the doctor Chu Xianmin sent for left, Chu Yan woke up and saw Lu Yao beside him with a gloomy face. He was about to get up, but he realized that he could not move at all. He then remembered that he had been beaten up by Chu Ning the day before. His mood immediately became irritable and gloomy. You, who are you showing your gloomy face to? The couple had not had a good time in the Chu family recently. Chu Luiyue's incident had directly exposed the two of them especially Lu Yao. She had been embezzling for so many years. Now that she had been found out, the rest of the Chu family would not let her off easily when they realized that their interests had been harmed. In addition, they did not have the crown prince's support now, so they were naturally even more unscrupulous. Lu Yao's right to manage the company was taken away. Even the shops under Chu Yan's name were all taken back. On the surface, he was still the Chu family's third young master, but he no longer had the right to speak. Those people who used to curry favor with him had now changed their attitude and were hitting him when he was down. Even now, no one came to take a look at him when he was beaten up like this. Lu Yao glanced at him and frowned. Do you know that Chu Luwei is still alive? Chu Yan was stunned. What nonsense are you talking about? She came back this morning. The whole Imperial city knows about it now. She didn't die in Wanling Mountain. Lu Yao knew better than Chu Yan how serious this matter was. Min Min's plan was completely ruined. No, we can't just sit here and wait for death. Lu Yao got up and paced back and forth in the room. Suddenly, a light flashed across her heart. Wait. Chu Luwei came back alive. Then, what about Gu Mingzhu? She quickly walked to the side and started writing a letter. Chu Yan was even more confused. What are you doing? Lu Yao did not even look up. Writing a letter to Madame Gu. What time is it now? You still have the mood to do this kind of thing. Chu Yan was fuming with anger. However, Lu Yao smiled. It's better to do this now. Rumor has it that Chu Luwei and Gu Mingzhu died together. But now that Chu Luwei is back, there is no news of Gu Mingzhu. Obviously, she is really dead. Is there nothing wrong with this? Chu Yan was stunned for a moment before he quickly understood. You mean? Lu Yao's lips curled into a sinister smile. So what if she came back alive? There are many people in the Imperial city who want her life. That night, the letter was sent to the Gu family. The next day, Chu Luwei saw that Chu Ning had recovered a lot. She was relieved and went to the academy. But just as she reached the entrance of the academy, she was stopped. Chu Luwei, stop right there. She looked back and saw a woman in her 30s walking over quickly with a group of people. She was dressed in white, and her eyes were red. She looked sad and angry. Seeing Chu Luwei's face, she immediately became agitated and wailed. Give me back my daughter's life. Digression, I couldn't sleep yesterday. Sob, 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 sob. A better reading experience comes from love. Chapter 159. Her voice was sharp and piercing, causing Chu Luwei to frown. Who are you? When the woman heard this, she seemed to be even more agitated. She immediately rushed forward and slapped Chu Luwei. You still have the cheek to ask who I am? I'll kill you. Chu Luwei sidestepped and dodged her attack. The woman lost her balance and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, the people behind her quickly caught her. Madam, you have to be careful. The woman was even angrier. She pointed at Chu Luwei and said sternly, Go. Capture her. Yes. When the people heard this order, they immediately went forward and surrounded Chu Luwei, intending to take action. Chu Luwei's expression did not change, but his voice was much colder. He sounded imposing without being angry. This is Tianlu Academy. Let's see who has the guts to cause trouble here. This sentence successfully made the people stop in their tracks and feel uneasy. That's right. No matter what, this was Tianlu Academy's entrance. If they really did something overboard here, Tianlu Academy would not let them off. However, the woman did not seem to hear Chu Luwei's words at all. Her voice rose an octave. Why are you still standing there? Take her down right now. If the Gu family wants to capture someone, who dares to stop us? The Gu family? Chu Luwei's mind raced. He finally remembered this woman's identity. She was the wife of the head of the Gu family, Gu Yunfei. She was the mistress of the Gu family, Yu Jinling. The original owner of the body had only seen this woman once, and it had been a few years ago. When Chu Luwei saw her, he only felt that she looked familiar. However, he did not remember anything. However, since she was so arrogant and kept saying my Gu family, it was not difficult for people to guess who she was. Chu Luwei finally understood what she meant when she said those words at the beginning. This was because Yu Jinling was Gu Mingzhu's biological mother. Oh, it's Madame Gu. I don't seem to have any dealings with your Gu family, and I haven't done anything wrong to you, have I? I wonder why you've mustered such a large force to capture me. Yu Jinling was so angry that she laughed. She looked at Chu Luiyue with resentment in her eyes. You still have the nerve to say that. You know best what you've done. Chu Luiyue's expression did not change. I really don't know. Why don't you explain it to me first? Yu Jinling was so angry that her whole body trembled. What's going on? Why are you making so much noise so early in the morning? Just as the two sides were in a deadlock, someone walked out from the academy's gate. Chu Luiyue turned around to take a look. Teacher Bai Chun. When Bai Chun saw Chu Luiyue, her heart skipped a beat. Even though he had already heard the news yesterday, seeing it with his own eyes still made him excited. Little Luyu, it's really you. He quickly walked up to Chu Luiyue and looked at her carefully. You're really fine? Chu Luiyue's lips curled up slightly. Yes, I'm fine. Don't worry. Good. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Bai Chen's emotions were in turmoil. He had a lot to say, but only this sentence was left. He kept repeating it over and over again. He heard that there was a commotion outside the academy, so he wanted to come and take a look. He did not expect it to be Chu Luiyue. His heart, which had been restless all night, could finally be at ease. When his emotions had calmed down a little, he looked around, and his expression suddenly became a little bad. These people seemed to want to make a move on Luyu. His gaze finally fell on Yu Jinling. Mrs. Gu, why are you here? Yu Jinling took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in her heart. She said coldly, Teacher Bai Chun, this is between the Gu family and Chu Luiyue. You'd better stay out of it. Bai Chun was amused. Mrs. Gu, what are you saying? Luyu is a student of Tianlu Academy. If you want to take her away now, don't we even have the right to ask? Yu Jinling was not a fool. She could immediately tell that Bai Chun was on Chu Luiyue's side. The Gu family was respected, but Tianlu Academy was not to be trifled with. If Bai Chun was determined to protect Chu Luiyue, then she really could not take Chu Luiyue away by force. Why don't you ask Chu Luiyue this question instead of me? Bai Chun looked at Chu Luiyue questioningly. Chu Luiyue shrugged. I don't know what happened either. When I walked to the academy's entrance, Mrs. Gu rushed over with her people and wanted to take me away without saying anything. She even said that she wanted me to pay for her daughter's life. When Bai Chun heard this, he suddenly understood something and looked at Yu Jinling suspiciously. Mrs. Gu, are you saying that Luyu killed your daughter Gu Mingzhu? That's right. When she heard her daughter's name, Yu Jinling's emotions, which had just calmed down, became agitated again. Tears gushed out crazily. It's her. She killed my only daughter. Bai Chen's expression became a little strange. Mrs. Gu, this involves a life. You can't speak carelessly. I understand your grief over losing your daughter, but the situation at Wanling Mountain was chaotic. Even we didn't know what happened. How can you be so sure that it was Luyu who killed your daughter? Of course I'm sure. I've already asked around. Back then, Mingzhu and Chu Luiyue were trapped on a mountain together. They were besieged by the black flying python and countless fiends. Under such circumstances, why did Mingzhu die, and only Chu Luiyue come back safely? She must have done something. Yu Jinling shouted confidently and angrily, as if she had seen it with her own eyes. Bai Chen didn't think much of it. He even found it a little ridiculous. So just because Luyu came back alive alone, you're certain that she killed Gu Mingzhu and wanted her dead? Yu Jinling rebuked coldly. Isn't that enough? Otherwise, why don't you ask her to personally explain how she managed to escape alone under that kind of situation? If Chu Luiyue was also dead, she would have nothing to say. She could only admit that she was unlucky. But now, Chu Luiyue was standing here safe and sound, while her daughter's corpse was nowhere to be found. How could she not hate her? Bai Chun was speechless. Do you have any evidence for what you said? If you don't have evidence, it's slander. Yu Jinling was stunned. For a moment, she didn't know how to respond and seemed a little guilty. Chu Luiyue gently rubbed between her eyebrows and said calmly, There's no evidence or evidence. Just based on your own imagination, you're sure that I'm guilty and even want to take me away? Madam Gu, aren't you being too unreasonable? Yu Jinling was rendered speechless by the two of them. Her face, which was originally red from crying, quickly turned pale. But she had seen much of the world, and the Jiao quickly defended herself. She quickly said, "Then explain yourself clearly. What exactly happened at that time? Why are you the only one who came back safely? If you already had the means to escape, why didn't you help Mingzhu?" Chapter 160. Why didn't she help? Chu Luiyue sneered in her heart. Instead, she wanted to ask herself why she should help. She and Gu Mingzhu were not related at all. Moreover, Gu Mingzhu had betrayed her to the black flying python in order to save her own life. She had yet to settle this score. How could the Gu family have the nerve to ask her to pay for Gu Mingzhu's life? Chu Luiyue said indifferently. The situation was critical at that time. It was already extremely difficult for me to survive. How could I care about other things? Madam Gu, don't forget that it was a black flying python. Do you think I'm its match? Yu Jinling was speechless. Then how did you escape? Who knows if you used my daughter's life in exchange for a way out? Yes, that must be it. Yu Jinling suddenly raised her voice, as if she was certain that Chu Luiyue must have used despicable means to survive. Chu Luiyue was so angry that she laughed. As the saying went, like father like son. Yu Jinling and Gu Mingzhu, this pair of mother and daughter, indeed had the same brain circuit. If the person present at that time was Yu Jinling, she would probably make the same choice as Gu Mingzhu, and use someone else's life in exchange for her own. Madam Gu, I've already said it very clearly. I was lucky to be able to come back alive. But if you don't want to believe me, then what else can I say? You only believe in your own imagination. Since that's the case, you can think whatever you want. But today, if you can't produce evidence, I won't go with you. I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. With that, Chu Luiyue turned to leave. You can't leave. Yu Jinling took a few steps forward, and was about to grab Chu Luiyue's sleeve, but she gently swayed and dodged. Chu Luiyue's patience was completely exhausted. Madam Gu, I don't have that much patience. Her tone was very calm, but a cold light seemed to flash in her obsidian-like eyes. For some reason, Madame Gu suddenly felt a little timid, and did not dare to reach out to grab Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue turned around, and walked towards the academy. Bai Chen walked in front of Yu Jinling inside, persuading her. Madame Gu, I know that Mingzhu's incident is a huge blow to you. As teachers, we are also very sad. But even so, they couldn't just randomly accuse others, right? Moreover, we all know Lu Yu's character. She would never do something like that. So I think you should go back and have a good rest today. Yu Jinling refused. Teacher Bai Chen, you're determined to protect Chu Luiyue today, aren't you? What kind of soup did she feed you to make you trust her so much? Think about it. In that kind of situation, if she didn't use some kind of method, how could she have escaped? Bai Chen's expression also turned cold. Madam Gu, are you saying that all the teachers and elders of Tianlu Academy are covering for Chu Luiyue? Yu Jinling thought that this might not be impossible, but she didn't dare to say it out loud. She glared viciously at Chu Luiyue. Her eyes were filled with hatred. Lu Yao was right. Chu Luiyue was really a vicious and venomous snake. I don't know what kind of person Chu Luiyue is. I only know that she could betray the Chu family that gave birth to her. She kicked them away, and even wanted to peel off a layer of their skin after she left. She stirred up chaos in the Chu family, let alone other people. Chu Luiyue, if you don't give me a satisfactory explanation today, I won't leave. After she finished speaking, her legs turned to jelly, and she collapsed on the ground, crying out loud. Mingzhu, my poor daughter. You died so tragically. Someone else caused your death. But I couldn't do anything about it. Mother is useless. Mother is useless. When the few followers beside her saw this, they immediately knelt down and cried in unison. Second Missy, you've been harmed by that evil person. The corners of Chu Luiyue's eyes twitched. Was she planning to cry at Tianlu Academy's entrance? She frowned and looked back. She only felt that it was ridiculous. No matter what, Yu Jinling was the matriarch of the Gu family. She had a noble status. How could she do such a thing? No matter how sorrowful and angry she was, Her actions were equivalent to throwing the Gu family's face. Why didn't she consider it at all? When Yu Jinling saw Chu Liyue's reaction, she thought that she was afraid and cried even harder. Her shrill and mournful voice could be heard from afar. Very quickly, many people gathered outside the entrance to watch the commotion. Some people started pointing at Chu Liyue, as if they were gossiping. Bai Chen had never seen such a scene before. He was momentarily stunned. After regaining his senses, he was furious. If they cried like this, where would Chu Liyue and Tianlu Academy be? He frowned and said, Madam Gu, it's not appropriate for you to make such a scene, right? Yu Jinling pretended not to hear anything. She only cared about crying. Bai Chen had a bad temper. He immediately panicked. Chu Liyue hurriedly pulled him back. Teacher Bai Chen, don't do anything. With so many people watching, whoever made the first move would be in the wrong. Bai Chen was extremely frustrated. Are we just going to let them make a scene here? What about your reputation? The surrounding people had already heard the gist of the situation. They started discussing in low voices. I was wondering why this person's identity was so special. So she's the Gu family's matriarch. No wonder she dared to go against Tianlu Academy. That's not right. Tianlu Academy is not that easy to provoke. You don't know this, right? Gu Mingzhu was her only daughter. She relied on Gu Mingzhu to stabilize her position in the Gu family. Now that Gu Mingzhu is dead, there are many people coveting her position. She's in danger now. How can she not hate her? She can't be blamed for making such a scene without caring about anything else. I see. Based on what she said, it was Chu Liyue who killed Gu Mingzhu? I find it strange too. Think about it. It was such a dangerous situation. But why did Chu Liyue survive? Gu Mingzhu was the Gu family's most favored second young mistress. She must have some trump cards. Even she is dead, but Chu Liyue. Actually, I wanted to say this a long time ago. This Chu Liyue is really strange. Back then, the Chu family didn't treat her well. After she cut ties with them, the Chu family's days became difficult. I heard that Gu Mingzhu didn't have a good relationship with her. She died after being trapped with her. This is really hard to say. Bai Chen was furious when he heard the discussions around him. However, when he saw Chu Liyue's expression, not only was he not angry, but he even smiled. Aya, little Liu, how can you still smile now? If you let these people continue, you will really be the sinner who killed Gu Mingzhu. Do you know that 3 people make a tiger? Chu Liyue crossed his arms and smiled faintly. Teacher Bai Chen, they specially arranged so many people to put on a show. Wouldn't it be a waste if we don't enjoy it? Bai Chen was stunned. You mean these people? It's hard for Madame Gu to do such a despicable thing with her status. Chu Liyue said softly and walked in front of Yu Jinling. Madame Gu, tell me, who taught you these things? Yu Jinling's crying stopped abruptly. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 161. She guiltily avoided Chu Liyue's gaze and deliberately raised her voice. What are you talking about? No one taught me anything. I'm the one who wants to seek justice from you. If you don't give me an explanation today, I won't leave. Chu Liyue softly said. Oh, Madame Gu, it's fine if you don't say anything, but you have to think carefully. Is it worth it to sacrifice your status as the Gu family's matriarch just for a moment of pleasure? Yu Jinling really couldn't cry now. What are you trying to say? What do you mean by it's not worth it? Chu Liyue sighed. She really didn't know how Yu Jinling had protected her status all these years. She was so extreme and easily instigated by others. She even helped others count the money after being betrayed. It was really useless to persuade her. She calmly said, You insist that I caused Gu Mingzhu's death, but you can't produce any evidence. If this matter spreads, it won't do me any good. It's the same for you, Madame Gu. After all, to be more precise, you're slandering me. Who's slandering you? You've done something wrong, but you don't dare to admit it. Yu Jinling was certain that Chu Liyue had something to do with Gu Mingzhu's death. She wouldn't listen to anything now. She sneered. Chu Liyue, do you think you're very proud now? Yes, you got into Tianlu Academy and became a so-called genius. Normal people really don't dare to provoke you. Even the Chu family is being toyed with by you. It's falling apart because of you. However, who knows how you obtained all of this? You were clearly a cripple with a blocked yuan meridian a few years ago. Now, under this so-called genius title, who knows what secrets are hidden? If you're really honest, do you dare to say it clearly in front of so many people? These words came out like a string of cannonballs, which immediately silenced the surrounding people. Countless pairs of eyes looked at Chu Luiyue with curiosity and excitement. Obviously, they also wanted to know the answer. After hearing this, Chu Luiyue relaxed her brows. As expected, it was still related to the Chu family. There were only a few people who hated her to the core. She didn't need to ask to guess. However, in order to deal with her, he had gone through so much trouble, and even encouraged Yu Jinling to bring the Gu family to cause trouble. He was really brainless as usual. She whispered, "Mrs. Gu, you're standing up for someone. Don't be unaware that you're being used in the end." Yu Jinling sneered. "What? Can't say it? Let me tell you, even if this matter is brought up to His Majesty, I will not let you off easily. Only your death can make up for my daughter's life." From the looks of it, he was determined to fight to the death with Chu Luiyue. "Madam Gu, aren't you going overboard by asking for the life of a Tianlu Academy student?" An old and deep voice rang out, immediately suppressing the cries of Yu Jinling and the others. Chu Luiyue looked at the person in surprise. "Elder son, why are you here?" Elder son looked at her and tried his best to maintain a calm expression. However, he couldn't help but look happy. "I heard that you were back, so I wanted to come and take a look. I didn't expect to hear cries from afar. So, someone is making things difficult for you." Chu Luiyue coughed in embarrassment. "Sorry to disturb you. It's not really a disturbance. Even if it is, it's someone else. It's not your fault." As elder son spoke, he looked at Yu Jinling and saw her sitting on the ground without a care for her image. His face darkened. "Madam Gu, what are you doing?" Yu Jinling was shocked. She didn't expect elder son to appear. Although she was furious, she knew that elder son was one of the top people in Tianlu Academy. She didn't dare to be impudent in front of him. Thus, she hurriedly stood up and said, "Elder son, you came at the right time. Mingzhu is also a student of the academy, but she died tragically outside. Even her corpse." As she spoke, tears flowed down her face again. "All of this is Chu Luiyue's fault. She caused Mingzhu's death. Such a vicious person doesn't have the right to stay in Tianlu Academy." Elder son's frown deepened. "Luyu caused Mingzhu's death? Where did you hear this from? Why don't I know about it?" "Elder son, do you know that the two of them were trapped on a mountain? Mingzhu is dead, but Chu Luiyue is still alive. Don't you think it's strange?" "You!" Elder son looked at her with a heavy gaze and interrupted her mercilessly. "Of course, I know about this because I was at the foot of the mountain. I saw it clearly." Yu Jinling was stunned and immediately rejoiced. "That's great. So you saw everything that happened at that time? Chu Luiyue caused Mingzhu's death, right? Chu Luiyue, don't you want evidence? Elder son is here. His words are the evidence." As one of the great elders of Tianlu Academy, Sun Zhongyan's status was extraordinary. Normally, he would not side with anyone. No one would doubt the truth of what he said. Chu Luiyue was also surprised. "Elder son, you were there at the time?" Elder son nodded. "Only the two of you were trapped, so I let the others leave first. I went alone to save the two of you. However, when I reached the foot of the mountain, I realized that it was occupied by countless fiend beasts. There was no way to enter, let alone anything else." Chu Luiyue understood, and her heart warmed. "I see. She did not expect this to happen. Elder son could be considered to have done everything he could for them. You don't have to blame yourself. The situation was critical. If you had barged in, you would have been in trouble." Elder son sighed. "I saw the two of you being swallowed by the black whirlpool with my own eyes. That's why I thought you were. I didn't expect you to return safely." He was actually very curious. He did not know how Chu Luiyue had escaped, but now was not the time to ask. He stepped forward and looked at Yu Jinling. "Madam Gu, you should apologize to Luyu." Yu Jinling was stunned. "What?" Elder son said word by word. That's because the person who betrayed her fellow disciples in exchange for a chance to live was not Chu Luiyue, but Gu Mingzhu. Digression. The remaining 2 photos were slightly later, around noon. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience came from Love Network. Chapter 162. Elder Sun's words were full of energy. It was like a sudden clap of thunder. Not only Yu Jinling, but everyone else was also dumbfounded. This meant, Elder Sun? What are you talking about? Yu Jinling subconsciously retorted. The one who is alive now is Chu Luiyue. The one who is dead is my Mingzhu. How could it be? At that time, Chu Luiyue and Gu Mingzhu were trapped on the mountain. The black flying python led many magical beasts and surrounded the mountain. Actually, from the beginning, the black flying python wanted to kill Luyu. But at that time, the black flying python was trapped for some reason. Luyu wanted to take the opportunity to escape. But just as she was about to escape, Gu Mingzhu stopped her. Not only did she attack Luyu, she also hugged her leg and didn't let her leave. Although I was some distance away, I saw that she was holding Luyu back while talking to the black flying python. But the black flying python didn't care and directly swallowed her into the black vortex. Luyu was dragged down by her and couldn't hold on for long. She was also sucked into the vortex. With every word Elder Sun said, Yu Jinling's face turned paler. In the end, she was as pale as a ghost. Her strength seemed to have been sucked away in an instant. She was on the verge of collapsing. The people beside her quickly went forward to support her. Impossible. This is impossible. Mingzhu isn't that kind of person. She wouldn't do such a thing. She appeared fierce on the outside, but was weak on the inside. Although she appeared to be strong on the surface, she actually felt a little guilty. Gu Mingzhu was her daughter, so she knew her best. When Gu Mingzhu returned home, she had repeatedly expressed her dissatisfaction with Chu Luiyue. Later, she made a bet with Chu Luiyue and lost 2 level 5 Xian formation diagrams. Gu Mingzhu hated her even more. The 2 of them were trapped. She might really, Elder Sun said coldly. Madam Gu, are you saying that I'm lying? Yu Jinling couldn't speak. Her forehead was already covered in cold sweat. How could she dare to say that Elder Sun was lying? Moreover, even if she didn't believe it, Elder Sun was a person of virtue and prestige. Others would definitely think that what he said was true. Yesterday, when she received Lu Yao's letter, she was blinded by anger. All she wanted was to take Chu Luiyue's life. But now even Elder Sun stood up for Chu Luiyue. The situation had already been decided. Even if she continued to cause trouble, it would be useless. Seeing Yu Jinling like this, everyone came back to their senses. Yu Jinling originally wanted to cause trouble for Chu Luiyue. But now that Elder Sun had spoken, she could no longer pester endlessly. Seeing that the situation was not right, a few people in the crowd quietly turned around and left. Chu Luiyue glanced at him, but did not stop him. In any case, she had already guessed who was behind this, so she didn't need to waste her energy on these small fries. Just as Yu Jinling didn't know what to do, the sound of hurried footsteps came from afar. The crowd quickly opened up a path. A middle-aged man rushed over with his entourage, looking anxious. When he saw Yu Jinling, his expression became even more unsightly. What are you doing here? Hearing this angry shout, Yu Jinling's body trembled and she turned around. Patriarch. The person who came over was burly and had a square face. He looked dignified without being angry. It was the patriarch of the Gu family, Gu Yunfei. He glared fiercely at Yu Jinling. What did I tell you yesterday? Have you forgotten? Yu Jinling shivered and lowered her head, not daring to look at him. I was just thinking about Mingzhu. Gu Yunfei was about to explode in anger. Everything was fine yesterday, but Yu Jinling suddenly ran to him and said that Chu Luiyue must have done something to Mingzhu to be able to come back alive. She said that he must capture Chu Luiyue and interrogate her properly. Gu Yunfei was skeptical. He had always doted on Gu Mingzhu. He felt terrible about her death, but he did not lose his rationality. On one hand, this was only their speculation. They did not have any evidence, so they could not accuse Chu Luiyue. On the other hand, Chu Liyue's status was different from before. She was highly regarded in Tianlu Academy. How could it be so easy to touch her? He told Yu Jinling not to act rashly, and to wait until they had enough evidence. Yu Jinling agreed at that time, but he did not expect her to do it. She even dared to bring people to Tianlu Academy to cause trouble. Looking at Yu Jinling's pathetic state, the Gu family's face and Gu Yunfei's face were all lost. Shut up. Yu Jinling was shocked. She knew that she was in the wrong, so she did not dare to say another word. Gu Yunfei took a deep breath and walked quickly to Old Sun with an apologetic expression. Old Sun, I'm really sorry. I didn't discipline her well, which caused her to cause such a huge commotion. You have always been magnanimous. Please, on account of the fact that we have just lost our daughter, can you let this matter pass? Old Sun waved his hand. You don't have to say that. You don't have to apologize to me. This matter has damaged Lu Yu's reputation. You should ask her. Gu Yunfei was stunned and a little surprised. Old Sun seemed to take special care of Chu Liyue. At the end of the day, Chu Liyue was just a student of the academy. Tianlu Academy's reputation had been tarnished by the commotion today. However, Elder Sun's first consideration was Chu Liyue. He suppressed the shock in his heart and said to Yu Jinling angrily, Did you hear what Old Sun said? Why aren't you apologizing to Lu Yu? Yu Jinling widened her eyes. Family head, you want me to apologize to her? She was the matriarch of the Gu family. Who is Chu Liyue? Gu Yunfei said coldly. Do you want me to apologize on your behalf? Yu Jinling was shocked, and her aura immediately weakened. Without Mingzhu, her position in the Gu family was very dangerous. If she offended the family head now, then she gritted her teeth, and her legs felt like they were filled with lead. She walked step by step to Chu Liyue, and her voice seemed to be squeezed out from her throat with difficulty. I'm sorry. Chu Liyue blinked. Madam Gu, what did you say? I didn't hear you clearly. Yu Jinling was so angry that her whole body trembled. How could she not have heard clearly? She was deliberately making things difficult for her. Gu Yunfei looked at her warningly. Yu Jinling had no choice but to close her eyes in resentment. I'm sorry. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 163. Chu Liyue looked at her sympathetically. I wouldn't dare. Madame Gu is of noble status. I can't accept your apology. However, Madame Gu, you seem to be crying too hard just now. Listen, your voice is hoarse now. Yu Jinling was so angry that she almost couldn't breathe. Wasn't she mocking her on purpose? You. That's enough. Gu Yunfei shouted angrily, and looked at his subordinates behind him. Hurry up and send Madame Gu back. Take care of her. Yes. They hurried forward and half supported and half forced Yu Jinling away. With Gu Yunfei here, Yu Jinling didn't dare to make a fuss no matter how angry she was. She could only leave with them. Gu Yunfei finally heaved a sigh of relief when they were completely out of sight. Elder Sun Lu Yu this? Master Gu. Elder Sun already said it very clearly. Gu Mingzhu failed to harm me and lost her life in the end. In fact, it wasn't just this time. It was the same before. She wanted to steal the cub of the golden mane bear, but failed, and was hunted down instead. Later, she purposely dragged our team down with her, causing us to be threatened by the golden mane bear. If it weren't for our good luck, even Mu Hongyu and the rest wouldn't have been able to escape death, much less me. Chu Liyue's expression was calm, but what she said shocked everyone once again. I'm of ordinary status. It doesn't matter if I die or get hurt. However, Mu Hongyu is Princess Yongping. If something happens to her because of this, Master Gu, I'm afraid you'll be in trouble. Gu Yunfei's remaining words were stuck in his throat. He didn't know if Chu Liyue was telling the truth, but Elder Sun was on her side. Even if it was fake, it was true. I originally thought that since Gu Mingzhu is no longer here, we don't need to pursue this matter. After all, the dead are more important. However, I didn't expect that after I gave in again and again, all I got in return was groundless accusations and slander. Master Gu, although I'm not a great person, I won't admit to things I haven't done. If others want to slander me, I definitely won't sit back and do nothing. Fortunately, Elder Sun was here today. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to clear my name even if I jumped into the Yellow River. What do you think? Gu Yunfei felt a chill run down his back. Then what do you want? Chu Luihua paused and smiled. Mrs. Gu has already apologized to me in front of everyone. Of course, I won't hold it against her. Let's just forget about this matter. The stone in Gu Yunfei's heart was finally lifted. That's good, that's good. However, Chu Luihua took a step forward, lowered his voice and laughed. Gu family head, Madame Gui has lost her beloved daughter. Now that she's grieving, it's easy for her to be incited by others. Perhaps someone might take advantage of her. You'd better pay more attention. Gu Yunfei's heart thumped. The farce finally came to an end. Chu Luihua returned to the academy and briefly told Elder Sun and Bai Chun what had happened over the past 2 days. However, she didn't mention how she had escaped from the black vortex. She only said that she had fainted and found herself lying in the forest when she woke up. She didn't know what had happened. Elder Sun didn't believe it, but seeing that Chu Luihua didn't seem to want to talk about it, he didn't pursue the matter. He told her to rest well and let her go. Before Chu Luihua returned to her residence, she bumped into Mu Hongyu and Sun Hu, who were looking for her. When the two saw Chu Luihua standing in front of them, they were overjoyed. Lu Yu, it's really you. It's really you. Mu Hongyu hugged her, crying and laughing at the same time. Sun Hu scratched his head and laughed so hard that the corners of his mouth almost reached the back of his head. Haha, I told you that Lu Yu wouldn't go back on her words. We agreed to meet outside the mountains. Isn't it true now? Chu Luihua saw that the two of them looked haggard and knew that they had been suffering for the past few days. Her heart ached as she patted Mu Hongyu's shoulder. I've always been a man of my words. On the other hand, the two of you look so sickly. Mu Hongyu wiped her tears. Of course not. As she spoke, she couldn't help but burst into laughter. I heard that the matriarch of the Gu family came to find trouble with you? How could they have the cheek to do that? Chu Luihua shook her head. It's already been resolved. Madame Gu probably won't have an easy time in the future. Sun Hu asked doubtfully. How do you know? After all, she's the matriarch of the Gu family. Chu Luihua's lips curved up. It's precisely because she's the matriarch that this matter is so serious. The Chu residence. After hearing the news from the servants, Lu Yao was in a daze for a long time. She sat in her chair in a daze and muttered in disbelief. How could this be? Could it be that this still couldn't bring her down? Not only did it not bring her down, but it even cleared Chu Luihua's name. With Elder Sun's words, there would no longer be such a rumor in the entire Imperial city. Chu Luihua had cleared her name without any effort. What exactly did she rely on to avoid danger time and time again? It's all because of you. Now everyone knows that Elder Sun is also Chu Luihua's backer. Chu Yan was seriously injured and couldn't get out of bed. Her temper had become even more irritable, and she would scold her frequently. Lu Yao was vexed. I didn't know that things would turn out this way. It's all because you're brainless. Just as the two of them were quarreling, hurried footsteps suddenly came from outside. Lu Yao took a look and saw a group of people rushing into the courtyard. They looked unfriendly. What are you doing? Is this a place where you can come in as you please? All of you get out. The person at the front sneered and said sarcastically, Third madam, we're here on First Elder's orders to invite you to the main hall. Lu Yao's heart skipped a beat. Why is First Elder looking for me? Don't you know what you've done? Now, the Gu family is also waiting for you. Please. Lu Yao's heart sank when she heard the words Gu family. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 164. Mu Hongyu was originally worried that Chu Luihua would be bullied by Madame Gu, but seeing her calm and composed appearance, she was relieved. Thinking about it, Chu Luihua could escape from the black flying python. What else could she not do? A mere Gu family was nothing to them. Forget it. Let's not talk about that. Now that you're back, we have to properly celebrate. Mu Hongyu's almond-shaped eyes sparkled as she spoke. Lu Yu, you said you would take us to Phoenix Restaurant last time. I haven't been there in a long time. Chu Luihua lightly knocked her head. When your body recovers, you can go there every day. For now, you'd better stay here obediently. Mu Hongyu's smile immediately disappeared. She raised 2 fingers. I swear I definitely won't drink. Is that okay? We'll only go eat. Chu Luiyue raised her brows. Really? Mu Hongyu hurriedly nodded. Really? Lu, you just promise me. I beg you. Chu Luiyue pretended to hesitate for a while before finally nodding. Okay. They had probably been heartbroken because of her for the past few days. It was time for them to relax. Then let's go tonight. Sinhu called Liao Zhongshu and Gu Mingfeng as well. Sinhu scratched his head, a little troubled. Liao Zhongshu's body hasn't recovered yet. He's been bedridden. I'm afraid he can't go. Chu Luiyue was a little surprised. Liao Zhongshu's injuries are that serious? I remember that it was mainly some flesh wounds at that time. After a few days, he should have recovered a little. Why can't he even get out of bed? Speaking of this, Mu Hongyu and Sinhu's expressions were a little unsightly. That's right. The academy's teachers have already taken a look at him and given him medicine. But for some reason, his injuries keep coming back and haven't improved. Sinhu continued. There's also Gu Mingfeng. He hasn't returned to the academy these past 2 days. I heard that he was chased out of the Gu family. Chu Luiyue was stunned. Why would the Gu family do this all of a sudden? Mu Hongyu pursed her lips. Isn't it because of Gu Mingzhu? Gu Mifeng has always been disliked in the Gu family. Now that Gu Mingzhu is dead, the Gu family is pushing all the blame onto him. Sinhu clenched his fists. Anyway, he rarely went back. It's no longer considered his home. It's good that he's gone. Chu Luiyue shook his head. That's not the case. It was one thing for Gu Mingfeng to not be valued, but it was another thing for him to be kicked out. In the past he was everyone, he was in the Gu family, in the past the families. Chu Luiyue thought for a moment and said, that's right. I'm afraid we won't be able to eat today's meal. Sinhu, go look for Gu Mingfeng. If you have any news, inform us immediately. Hongyu and I will visit Liao Zhongshu first. Upon hearing Chu Luiyue's words, the duo agreed. After all, they had gone through life and death together. They couldn't ignore him. Mu Hongyu stopped joking. I know where Liao Zhongshu lives. Come with me. The moment Chu Luiyue followed Mu Hongyu to the warrior student's residence, they attracted a lot of attention. The news of Chu Luiyue's safe return had already spread throughout the academy the day before. Many people were curious when they heard that she was coming back today. Seeing that Chu Luiyue had actually come to the warrior's residence, it naturally caused quite a commotion. Chu Luiyue ignored it and followed Mu Hongyu to a small building. Mu Hongyu walked to the door and knocked. Ji Yurong, are you there? The door was quickly opened. It was a tall and thin youth. He recognized Mu Hongyu at a glance and smiled warmly. Mu Hongyu, are you here to take a look at Zhongshu? Mu Hongyu nodded. Yes, Lu Yu and I are here to visit him. The youth was stunned when he heard Chu Luiyue's name. Only then did he see that there was another person behind her. A strange expression flashed across his face, but it was fleeting. So you came together. Come in. Zhongshu just woke up. You can go up and visit him. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes. Mu Hongyu didn't sense anything wrong. She pulled Chu Luiyue to the 2nd floor. We'll go up first. Sorry to trouble you these few days. Ji Yurong smiled. We're all classmates. It's my duty. You guys chat. I have something to do, so I'll go out first. After saying that, he simply packed up his things, closed the door and left. Chu Luiyue looked back at him. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that Ji Yurong's footsteps seemed to be fleeing. As she went up the stairs, she asked, that Ji Yurong also lives here? That's right. He's been living here with Zhongshu. This is the martial artist area. Everyone lives together. It's not like you mystics who have good conditions and can each have your own courtyard. Zhongshu often talks about him, but he's a bit introverted and rarely interacts with us. Mu Hongyu said as she walked. However, he's really a good person. He's been taking care of Zhongshu for the past few days. Chu Luiyue nodded and didn't ask any more questions. As they spoke, the two reached the bedroom on the 2nd floor. As soon as they entered, Chu Luiyue saw Liao Zhongshu lying on the bed and couldn't help but be shocked. In just a few days, Liao Zhongshu had lost a lot of weight. His cheeks were deeply sunken, and his eyes were dim. He looked very haggard. Seeing Chu Luyue and Ji Yirong enter, Liao Zhongshu revealed a pale smile and raised his hand with difficulty. "You're here? Sit down." Mu Hongyu furrowed her brows. "Why do you look worse than 2 days ago? Did you not take your medicine properly?" Liao Zhongshu shook his head, his voice weak. "It's fine if my body doesn't live up to expectations. But Lu Yu, it's great that you're back." Even though he was sick, he had heard about Chu Luyue's matters. Thus he was very happy to see her standing here in one piece. Chu Luyue stepped forward and put her hand on his wrist. "What did the teachers say about your body?" Liao Zhongshu's lips moved and he coughed. Cough, cough. "It's nothing. It's not a big problem. It's just that my body is too weak, and I can't absorb the medicine properly. That's why I haven't gotten better. The teachers said to take the medicine for 2 days and see." Cough. Chu Luyue frowned slightly. Mu Hongyu asked curiously, "Lu Yu, did you see anything?" Chu Luyue suddenly pulled the blanket off him. "Hey Lu Yu." Mu Hongyu jumped in fright and tried to stop her. Unfortunately, Chu Luyue was too fast and couldn't stop her. Liao Zhongshu didn't expect Chu Luyue to do this either. He was instantly embarrassed and tried to pull the blanket up. However, Chu Luyue didn't care about their expressions. Her eyes were fixed on his left leg. A piece of flesh had been bitten off his left leg, and it was swollen beyond recognition. It was twice as thick as his other leg, and it almost tore his pants apart. Mu Hongyu exclaimed, "What's going on?" Liao Zhongshu's face turned pale. "It's been like this since the day I came back. The teachers don't know why." Chu Luyue pondered for a moment. "You've been poisoned. You've been poisoned." Chapter 165. Poison. Mu Hongyu was also shocked. She did not care about her embarrassment and quickly walked forward. "Are you sure? Do you know what kind of poison he was poisoned with?" Chu Luyue covered Liao Zhongshu with the blanket once more. Instead of answering Mu Hongyu's question, he turned to Liao Zhongshu and asked, "Have your legs been itching for the past 2 days? Furthermore, they start bleeding whenever you scratch them?" Liao Zhongshu nodded in a daze. "That is indeed the case." "How did you know?" Chu Luyue had only taken a glance through his clothes, yet he was able to guess it so accurately. "How I know isn't important. What's important is that the poison has already spread throughout your body. In less than 3 days it will reach your lungs. At that time, there will be nothing I can do." Liao Zhongshu immediately became nervous. So serious? But I haven't even left my room since I came back. How could I be poisoned? Furthermore, the teachers didn't say anything about it. This poison is known as red blood goo, and it's an extremely rare type of poison. Once infected, the wounds on the body will fester over and over again, unable to heal. Even worse, the area around the wound will rapidly fill with blood, and the skin will become brittle. The itch will be unbearable, and the slightest touch will cause the wound to rupture. In the end, your skin will crack, and you will die of blood loss. With every word Chu Luyue spoke, Mu Hongyu and Liao Zhongshu's faces turned paler. By the end, their faces were as pale as ghosts. This was especially true for Liao Zhongshu. He was already on the verge of death, and after hearing those words, he found it hard to breathe. This, I don't know what happened either. Could it be that He couldn't finish his words, but Chu Luyue and Mu Hongyu knew what he was worried about. Even the teachers of the academy couldn't see through such a formidable poison, let alone treat it. This meant that he only had a few days left to live. Mu Hongyu looked worriedly at Chu Luyue. "Lu Yu, is it really that serious? Then do you have any ideas? Since you were able to recognize it, you must have a solution, right?" Liao Zhongshu also looked at her with a glimmer of hope. Chu Luyue remained silent for a moment. "I recognize this poison, but if you want to completely cure it, you need at least 100 herbs. Most of them are extremely precious. It will be difficult to find them in a short period of time. If it was her previous life, it wouldn't be a problem for her to deal with this kind of poison. But with the current circumstances, it was really difficult. There were some herbs that could not be found even in the entire country." The light in Liao Zhongshu's eyes gradually dimming eyes. He was stunned for a moment before he smiled bitterly. I guess I can only wait. Mu Hongyu looked at Chu Luyue, and then at Liao Zhongshu. Her heart felt like it was being roasted on fire. She and Liao Zhongshu had always had a good relationship. In addition, Liao Zhongshu had helped them a lot in surviving this time. The friendship between them had long surpassed that of ordinary fellow disciples. But now they were actually going to watch him die right in front of their eyes. The room fell into silence for a moment. Chu Luyue suddenly asked, "How did you get poisoned?" Liao Zhongshu was at a loss. "I don't know. I was fine before I went to Wanling Mountain. But after I came back, my wounds kept worsening." "So you were poisoned in the academy after you came back?" "I think so. After I came back, I didn't even leave this room." As Liao Zhongshu spoke, he frowned and fell into deep thought. "But I don't know what went wrong either. Ever since I came back to recuperate, I've been taking medicine and resting according to the teacher's instructions. I haven't touched anything else." Chu Luyue crossed her arms and suddenly asked, "How does Ji Yurong treat you?" "Him? He treats me very well. He has been taking care of me for the past few days." "Do you suspect that he poisoned me?" Liao Zhongshu finally understood what Chu Luyue meant, but he subconsciously denied it. "That's impossible. We've been living here since the day we were admitted to the academy. We get along well. Although we're not as close as biological brothers, we have a good relationship. He has no reason to harm me." Mu Hongyu could not help but interrupt. "That's right. Lu Yu, I know that Ji Yurong. He's a good person. I don't think he would do such a sinister thing. You can't judge a book by its cover. If it wasn't him, did you poison yourself?" Chu Luyue disagreed with the two's words. If he really didn't do anything, why did Ji Yurong look so guilty when he saw her? Mu Hongyu and Liao Zhongshu were speechless. Chu Luyue's words were reasonable. "What do we do now? We can't just arrest him and interrogate him, right? Then, even if he did it, he definitely wouldn't admit to it." Mu Hongyu rubbed her temples and felt that her head was hurting. Chu Luyue looked around and saw an empty bowl beside Liao Zhongshu. She could faintly smell a faint medicinal fragrance. "Is this the bowl you drink your medicine from? It's so clean." Liao Zhongshu nodded. "Every time I drink my medicine, Yurong would immediately wash the bowl. He said that the smell was too strong, and he was worried that it would affect my rest. So he would wait until I finished drinking it and wash it before bringing it back." Liao Zhongshu's voice gradually trailed off. He looked at the bowl with a strange expression. Could it really be him? At first, he thought that Ji Yurong was taking care of him and was very grateful. But now that he thought about it, it was indeed strange. He was a patient. So what if he smelled the medicine? Even he did not care. Why did Ji Yurong care so much about it? He tried to persuade Ji Yurong not to go through so much trouble, but Ji Yurong always said that it was a small matter. Mu Hongyu suddenly jumped up and ran to the bowl to examine it carefully. "Lu Yu, are you saying that there's something wrong with the medicine?" "Unfortunately, the bowl has been washed clean. There's no evidence left. Why don't we check it the next time Zhongshu drinks his medicine?" Chu Liyue's red lips twitched as she shook her head. "He won't do anything else. The previous poison is enough. We just need to wait for a few more days. Moreover, Ji Yurong should have sensed her vigilance and would not give her any chance to investigate." Mu Hongyu was dejected. "Then what should we do?" Liao Zhongshu forced a smile. "Hongyu, don't think about it. Even if we find something now, it's probably too late. My body." Chu Luyue shook her head in disagreement and smiled faintly. "The more it's like this, the more we have to investigate. We can only hope to get the antidote if we find the person who poisoned you. Rest well first. Hongyu and I will go and investigate." After telling Liao Zhongshu to rest well, Chu Luyue and Mu Hongyu left together. After they walked out of the door, Mu Hongyu looked back and worriedly asked, "What's wrong?" "Lu Yu, how are we going to investigate now? Without the antidote, Zhongshu won't last more than a few days. Will we be able to make it in time?" Chu Luyue looked up in a certain direction. "So the most important thing for us now is to stop the poison from spreading in his body." Mu Hongyu was stunned. "Didn't you say that the antidote is difficult?" "It's difficult to completely detoxify the poison, but it's not that difficult to suppress the poison." Chu Luiyue walked forward as she spoke. Hey, where are you going? Chu Luiyue did not even turn around. Heavenly Medicine Pavilion. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 166. Mu Hongyu was shocked and hurriedly followed him. Heaven Medicine Pavilion? Isn't that where the academy stores all kinds of herbs? Are you going there now, to get the herbs? Chu Luiyue nodded. As the top academy in country Yaochun, Tianlu Academy should have a lot of good stuff stored there. Let's go take a look first. I'll go by myself. Go and check if Ji Yurong has been acting strangely recently, or if he's been in contact with anyone. He's from an ordinary family, so he must have gotten the poison from someone else. Mu Hongyu was a little hesitant. It's not a problem for me to check, but Heaven Medicine Pavilion, that place is the celestial physician's territory. I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to get the herbs there. Mu Hongyu's words were very tactful. In fact, for so many years, other than the celestial physician's people, it was difficult for others to even enter Heaven Medicine Pavilion. It was not that they did not allow people to enter, but the rules were too strict. The academy required that every student who wanted to get herbs from Heaven Medicine Pavilion had to make a declaration. They would only be allowed if they had a good reason. If it was the celestial physicians group, they could easily get what they wanted as long as they said that they wanted to refine medicine. However, it was not so simple for warriors in celestial physicians group. Chu Luiyue raised his brows. Then are warriors and Xian masters not qualified to go? That's not it. Actually, we only go there once in a while when we're injured. Mu Hongyu wrinkled her nose and was a little indignant. You don't know, but the celestial physicians group is very arrogant. They're very hard to please. Chu Luiyue laughed. Celestial physicians' requirements for talent were very high. Normal celestial physician did have this problem. Although I didn't cultivate there, I passed the celestial physician's exam. They won't make things difficult for me, right? Mu Hongyu pursed her lips. That might not be the case. Chu Luiyue patted her arm. Don't worry. The two of them split up. Chu Luiyue walked all the way to the back of the mountain. The Heaven Medicine Pavilion was built on the steepest mountain in Tianlu Academy. Most people would not come here for no reason. Therefore, the further up the mountain they went, the more deserted their surroundings became. After about the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Chu Luiyue finally saw the plaque that read, Heaven's Medicine Pavilion. The Heavenly Medicine Pavilion had a total of 5 floors. From the surface, it looked no different from an ordinary building. However, when Chu Luiyue approached it, he felt a formless fluctuation. Outside Heaven's Medicine Pavilion, an extremely powerful barrier had been set up. Outside the bronze gate stood 2 youths who seemed to be guarding it. Seeing Chu Luiyue, one of the youths asked coldly, Who are you? What is it? Chu Luiyue said, Student Chu Luiyue is here to collect the medicine. When they heard the name Chu Luiyue, a look of astonishment flashed across their faces at the same time. This name reverberated like thunder in their ears. Some time ago, she passed all 3 examinations and was admitted to the academy. She was also a genius who took first place in the Warrior Division and second place in the Xian Master Division on the same day. Even though they did not care much about the Warrior Division and Xian Master Division, they had heard this name more than once. They did not expect that she would actually come here. You are Chu Luiyue? The youth who asked the question carefully sized up Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue nodded. You have to declare if you want to collect medicine from Heaven's Medicine Pavilion. Fill in the form first. As he spoke, the other youth waved his sleeve, and an item flew toward Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue raised his hand to catch the item, and raised his eyebrows slightly. It was actually a wooden board and a writing brush. The wooden board was charred black, and was only the size of a palm. It was also very rough to the touch. Write down the item you want on this, and we will send it in for verification. After the verification, the item will be given to you. The youth spoke indifferently, as if he was doing business. Chu Luiyue flipped through the items in his hand and smiled. It seemed that Mu Hongyu was right. This group of people from Celestial Physician Division was truly extraordinarily arrogant. and liked to make things difficult for others. This charred wooden board was not ordinary wood, but the trunk of a black sage vine. It was born like this, and its texture was hard. Even if an average person used a knife to carve, they might not be able to leave a mark on it. As for writing, this writing brush was clean without a speck of ink, so how could he write? Chu Luiyue waved the item in his hand. Just write it on this. The two youths nodded in unison, looking like they were watching a joke. Chu Luiyue did not say anything else. He picked up the brush and started writing on the wooden board. The brush did not leave a single mark on the black wooden board. Chu Luiyue paused and frowned slightly, seemingly a little surprised. The two youths looked at each other with ridicule in their eyes. Passing all 3 tests. Genius. Seems like this is all there is to it. Chu Luiyue looked up and smiled apologetically. I'm sorry. There seems to be a problem with this item. Can I trouble you to change it for me? Change it? Each person can only have one at a time. How can? One of the youths immediately refused, but before he could finish, the person beside him suddenly interrupted him. Since this is your first time here, we'll change it for you. With that, he moved his arm and threw a similar black wooden board to Chu Luiyue. Hey, Emo Liang, according to the rules you can't. Cui Yao disagreed, but he saw Emo Liang give him a look. He was stunned for a moment before he realized that Emo Liang was actually trying to tease Chu Luiyue. She couldn't write one, and she still couldn't write another one. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? Ever since Chu Luiyue entered the academy, she had always been praised and in the limelight. Now was the perfect time to show her who was the boss. So many people praised her as a genius, but now it seemed that her brain wasn't that bright. The two exchanged a look of understanding and didn't say anything else. They just looked at Chu Luiyue, waiting for her to make a fool of herself. Sure enough, Chu Luiyue still couldn't leave a mark on it. She paused, seeming a little embarrassed and confused. Cui Yao and Emo Liang almost couldn't hold back their smiles. Chu Luiyue, it seems like there's a problem with this one too. How about we change it for you? Emo Liang said loudly, his tone mocking. Chu Luiyue looked at him and hesitated for a moment before saying, Then I'll have to trouble you. No trouble, no trouble. We're all from the same school, so it's only right that we help each other. Emo Liang held back his laughter and threw another wooden board to Chu Luiyue. This time, Chu Luiyue had a total of 3 boards in her hands. Hey, Chu Luiyue, if this still doesn't work, why don't we just give you a few more? Once you try 100 times, you'll definitely find a good one, right? Ha 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 ha. Cui Yao didn't hide his ridicule and laughed out loud. Even a fool would be able to see the problem at this point. But unexpectedly, Chu Luiyue didn't show the slightest bit of embarrassment. Instead, she smiled and shook her head. No need, these are enough. With that, she walked to the side and plucked an apricot leaf. Seeing her actions, Cui Yao's laughter came to an abrupt stop. Emo Liang also felt a bit uneasy. Chu Luiyue used the apricot leaf to lightly wipe the blackboard, then started writing again. As the tip of the brush moved, a smooth white handwriting could be clearly seen. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from LoveNet. Chapter 167. Black sage vine and bitter apricot leaf were natural enemies. After wiping with bitter apricot leaf, a thin layer of coating would be left. Although the brush didn't have ink, it was made of snow wolf fur and could easily leave a mark on it. This method was simple, but those who didn't understand it would be stumped. The Cui and Yao duo wanted to use this to make things difficult for Chu Luiyue and embarrass her once. When Chu Luiyue said that the item was broken and asked to change it, the two were secretly pleased with themselves, thinking that they had succeeded in pranking her. But now, looking at the words on the blackboard, they couldn't laugh anymore. The smile on Cui Yao's face didn't fade, but his eyes were full of shock. He looked very stiff and strange. Emo Liang wasn't any better. He realized almost immediately, Chu Luiyue did it on purpose. She clearly knew what to do, but pretended not to know. They thought that they had tricked her, but in fact, they were under her control. When the two of them were laughing at her, she was probably very pleased with herself. Chu Luiyue wrote a line, then looked up at the two with a slight smile. So this thing isn't broken. Look, it's written quite smoothly. Chui Yao's expression was so ugly that it looked like he had swallowed a fly. Mo Liang pointed at Chu Luiyue, suppressing his anger. You already knew how to write this. You tricked us. Chu Luiyue blinked. That's right. She said it so casually that the two men didn't know what to say for a moment. This Chu Luiyue was too arrogant. You. How dare you? Chu Luiyue. Do you know where you are? How dare you deceive us in public? Mo Liang cursed angrily. Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. Weren't you two the ones who made things difficult for me first? I just came to take some herbs, and you tried to stop me. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. Is that too much? Chu Luiyue's words silenced the two. Yes, it was true that they were the first to make things difficult for her. But this was the usual practice. Other than the celestial physician, everyone who came here was always like this. Chu Luiyue was no exception. It was just that he didn't expect that he would kick an iron plate. Not only did he fail to trick Chu Luiyue, but he also became a joke. Chu Luiyue lowered his head and continued writing. Senior brothers, please wait for a moment. I still have a lot of things to write. When Chui Yao and Chui Yao heard this, they immediately looked over, only to see Chu Luiyue's pen moving like a dragon. His movements were smooth, as if he didn't need to think at all. In a short period of time, the black wooden board was already half filled. However, Chu Luiyue had no intention of stopping. Only then did the two of them realize that things seemed to have spiraled out of control. Chu Luiyue had clearly come prepared. Most importantly, she had 3 black wooden boards in her hands. Mo Liang swallowed his saliva with difficulty. Chu Luiyue, each person can only fill in 1 piece of paper at a time. Hurry up and return the remaining 2 black sage vines. Chu Luiyue didn't even raise her head. Senior brother, you gave these to me. There's no reason why I can't write them, right? Cold sweat dripped down Mo Liang's forehead. I told you to stop writing. If the teacher knew that he had given Chu Luiyue 3 black sage vines at once, he would definitely punish him. At this moment, Chu Luiyue had already filled up the first black sage vine. She took the remaining 2 and smiled brightly at the 2. I really can't refuse senior brother's kindness. With that, she continued to write on the 2 blank black sage vines. What a joke! To help Liao Zhongshu stop the poison, she needed a lot of herbs. Moreover, these 2 people were deliberately asking for trouble. Wouldn't it be inappropriate if she didn't repay them properly? Seeing Chu Luiyue's actions, Mo Liang's heart sank bit by bit. Finally, Chu Luiyue filled up the 3 black sage vines and handed them over. Senior brother, these are the herbs I need this time. Please send them in for the teacher's approval. Mo Liang's body stiffened. Seeing the smile on Chu Luiyue's face, Chui Yao was furious. She snatched the things away. Don't bite off more than you can chew. I'd like to see if the teacher will approve it for you. With that, she opened the door and walked in. Bang! The door closed again. Chu Luiyue shrugged, took a few steps back, and waited patiently. Mo Liang was jolted awake by the sound of the door closing, and returned to his senses. Yes, Chui Yao was right. Chu Luiyue's writing wasn't the most important thing. As long as the teacher didn't approve it, it would be useless for her to write. She wasn't from the Celestial Physicians team, and this was her first time here. If she only wanted 1 or 2 ordinary herbs, the teacher might give them to her. However, she had asked for too much from the start. This request would definitely not be approved. With that thought, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. The waiting time was always unbearable. Mo Liang glanced at the door from time to time, but Chui Yao didn't come out. His mood became more and more restless. That's not right. The teacher would definitely reject the request. Chui Yao should have come out by now after being in there for so long. Why hasn't she come out yet? He looked back at Chu Luiyue, only to see her standing there with her hands behind her back. She looked relaxed, as if she wasn't worried about her request at all. This made him even more annoyed and he frowned. After another 15 minutes, the door opened again and Chui Yao came out. Apart from the black sage vine that had already been erased, he didn't have any other herbs in his hand. He didn't pass. Mo Liang was delighted and quickly went up to him. What took you so long? Is the teacher busy? Is that why he rejected me so late? Chui Yao's expression was a little strange. She handed the black sage vine to Emo Liang and walked to her seat on the other side without saying anything. Emo Liang felt something was wrong. What's wrong? Chui Yao looked at Chu Luiwei with a complicated expression and said with difficulty, "Her list has passed. How is that possible?" Emo Liang jumped to his feet in disbelief. Chui Yao rubbed her face. Teachers Wu Rong said that there were too many things, and some of them were placed in remote locations. He said that it would take some time to prepare them. Later, he will personally come out with the things. Love Network has a better reading experience. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.